The old license plates read Big Sky Country, but inside Montana there's an unofficial state motto, the last best place. Hemmed by the plains in the Pacific Northwest, Montana is a patchwork of golden prairies and green mountains, with rivers that run through it. And the last best place suggests a warding off of the onslaught of outside forces. So this year, when Washington, D.C. politicians suggested selling off public lands for development as part of the so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill, Montanans of all political stripes stood in opposition. Is this a rare example of modern bipartisanship, proof that there are some issues that can knit Americans together, or are these frontier folk just delaying the inevitable? Montana's landscape beguiles as it unfolds. The kind of sheer beauty that could stop traffic, if there were traffic to stop. The scale is hard to exaggerate. It's a state roughly the size of California, with roughly the population of Greater Fresno, just north of 1 million. Montanans speak fondly of their neighbors, who might live 50 miles away. As for the land itself, it's not mere real estate, it's there for recreation. A corridor for wildlife. It's symbolic, too. The open frontier is an emblem of freedom and possibility. It's something deeper, sacred even.
Like spiritual, right? So like some people find that in church or in other ways. And for me, it's just being out where your feet are on the ground and actually connecting with this space. And then if you spend enough time in those spaces and on that landscape, it's like land is kin, right? It starts to feel like
Land is kin.
yeah.
Brian Mannix is a rancher who, along with his Uncle Dave and cousin Logan, raise cattle in western Montana. They've been on this plot since 1882, when their forebears first homesteaded here. With lineage comes perspective. As ranchers, you guys have talked about feeling like you're stewards of the land more than you're owners of the land. What's the difference?
It's not ours, it's just our turn.
If you're going to steward that land, you're going to treat that land in a way that maybe doesn't maximize your life, but is better for multiple generations of human beings, because this place is going to outlast all of us by a long ways.
The Mannix's operation relies on a mix of land, around 55,000 acres all told, more than 3 Manhattans. It's land they own, private land they lease from others, plus federal plots they pay a relatively small fee to use. So earlier this year, when members of Congress proposed the wholesale sell-off of tracts of public land, the first serious effort of its kind in more than 4 decades, the Mannixes, well, bridled.
Yeah, to me it's worrisome because I think that you can have a very nuanced conversation about management, but whether or not should we have these lands as public lands, to me is a no-brainer.
The federal government owns and manages about 640 million acres of American land, most of it in the West and Alaska. Yes, those breathtaking national parks, but also huge tracts for conservation, recreation, and moneymakers like ranching, mining, and logging.
Interior managed resources hold a significant position on Americans' balance sheet.
The Trump administration, including Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, have made clear federal lands could be generating much more value if there were better management, fewer regulations, and more vigorous extraction.
One of my top priorities has been to make a small percentage of underused federal land available to address housing affordability.
But Utah Senator Mike Lee went further this year, putting forward his measure as part of the Big Beautiful Budget Bill that proposed selling public land, as much as 3 million acres across the West.
Federal land is a massive underutilized asset.
Lee's proposal did not list specific parcels, but he and some Republican colleagues reasoned selling land would address America's housing shortage and also help pay down the nation's debt. If the public land that you use were sold off, could you run your business?
The answer is yes, but it would be something less than what it is now.
If we lost our public leases, we would lose a significant amount of income. So absolutely it would impact us.
In Montana, selling public land was perceived as an attack on a way of life already under stress. In recent years, the moneyed class has descended. Westward ho. Exclusive enclaves like the Yellowstone Club, studded with 8-figure residences, are proliferating. In the last 5 years alone, home prices in the state have vaulted nearly 70%. So much private land is being sold and developed. Construction, sprawl, for sale signs, they're everywhere. In Big Sky, in Bozeman, Bose Angeles, they call it, in the remote Ruby Valley.
When we all come together.
Which is where we met Donna McDonald, a hunting and fishing guide, John Helly, a sheep rancher, Chris Edgington, a fly fisherman and river health advocate, Emily Cleveland, a conservationist. They come from across the state and across the political spectrum. They find common cause in a devotion to public lands. Could you run your business if the public lands were sold off?
No, there would not be a business to run.
From the ranching community to the guiding community to the wildlife that the hunters and the anglers use, spend a lot of time on public lands.
In some states, the vast majority of the territory is federally owned. Montana is about 30%. How did we get here? As the nation expanded in the 1800s and as Native Americans were forcefully removed, some land was settled by homesteaders or sold to industrialists, but much fell to the federal government.
Further out that way. Good work, good work.
McDonald, who grew up in this valley, makes a living taking guests out on the private and public lands that surround her property. She invited us to do some fishing.
How long have you been doing this?
I can't remember not doing it, John.
You're out on the river, it's a nice day, you're in nature.
Right. And it's worth saving.
Preservation is often, literally and figuratively, a grassroots endeavor.
Really good to see everybody.
Donna, John, Chris, and Emily sit on the Ruby Valley Strategic Alliance, one of many local land management groups across the state and the West. At a time of hyper-polarization, these folks, the Birkenstock crowd and the cowboy boot crowd, do something radical. They respect their differences and get along.
Well, it's kind of like when neighbors get together to build a fence. We can stand there and argue about where to put the post, or we can roll up our sleeves and build the fence together.
A little glimpse into Montana.
Yep.
Well, I think we finally came to realize that we all had kind of the same goals in mind and, save some of the last best places here.
And now we have more tree growth.
In response to the land sale proposal, hunters and hikers locked arms. Not 1 acre became a rallying cry. The Ruby Valley group spoke out publicly and lobbied Montana's 2 senators and 2 congressmen, all Republicans.
That was an easy one to all come to agreement on.
Not a lot of dissent.
No, we all realize the importance of the public land, and once it's gone forever.
I suspect there's some people saying, wait a second, you've got all this land. What's wrong with converting that into housing and using it in other ways?
Yeah, I think a lot of our public lands aren't really close to infrastructure that would be necessary for wide-scale housing developments, and selling public lands to generate income and revenue is just not something that makes sense.
I think it's a slippery slope.
It is.
What do you mean?
I mean, if we sell this chunk or that chunk, I mean, where would it end?
Which is precisely the case they made to their representatives, like Ryan Zinke.
We kept hearing you have zero political future in this state unless you oppose the sale of public lands.
I think Montanans are very passionate about the public lands because we live out here.
You heard pretty clear on this one.
I think it's absolutely crystal clear.
Zinke grew up in Whitefish, Montana, and served as a Secretary of the Interior during President Trump's first term.
500,000.
Now he represents Western Montana in the House. He called the land sale proposal his San Juan Hill, a nod to Teddy Roosevelt, noted conservationist. Rough translation, over my dead body.
Public lands is not, to me, on a balance sheet. Public lands is our inheritance of this great nation, and we're blessed with it. There is no other country on the face of the planet that has the public land experience that we do.
On this issue, Zinke's no ideologue. On a case-by-case basis, within the existing laws, he says he's open to rethinking public land use. What he does oppose, wholesale sell-off.
You could sell the entirety of the federal estate. It's not going to get you out of debt. If you have a hotel and the hotel is being mismanaged, you don't sell the hotel. You get new management. And then if you sell the public land, you sell it all, right? Have you changed why you're in debt? No, you've just sold your assets.
People supporting this say, what's the harm of unlocking some of this so we can build affordable housing? Why are those people wrong?
Well, if we want to discuss, reality, selling all our public land for housing, one, won't solve the housing crisis. And secondly, public land itself, if it's managed well, you should be able to bring timber off of it. You should be able to graze. Energy, oil, coal, gas, a lot of that comes from our public lands.
Zinke was instrumental in getting the land sale proposal killed in the House. He then coordinated with his colleagues in the Senate, where Mike Lee had crafted a special carve-out exempting Montana. But that didn't win over the state's delegation. The measure was abandoned. In a statement to 60 Minutes, Senator Lee said in part, quote, "The federal government controls more land than it can manage, hurting the growth and prosperity of American families and their communities." Perhaps more than any other state, Montana stood in the breach, thwarting the sale efforts. Though there is widespread expectation public land sales will come up again in Congress.
This is an era where party unity in the Republican Party is strong. You went against the grain here. You stuck your neck out.
It's a red, white, and blue issue. It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue. This is an American issue. And once you sell land, you're not going to get it back. The challenge is this.
On this point in particular, Zinke has seen his state transformed.
Behind us is the Yellowstone River, and below us, the Yellowstone dumps into the Missouri.
What's changed?
When I grew up, there was less people. You see all these houses in there. There wasn't maybe one or two houses in this whole valley along the river.
Zinke knows changes to land bring changes to culture. Locals complain they no longer know their neighbors. No trespassing signs suddenly abound. Montanans, like the Mannixes, are tracking the public lands issue closely. If an unsentimental government gets in on the sale, there really goes the neighborhood.
Often, what we see is the most valuable thing to do with this land, probably forever now, will be to chop it up and sell it in small chunks for people to have a little piece of paradise. And I think that's going to be true whether it's a ranch that sells or public land that sells.
To borrow a phrase, this land is your land, this land is my land. People here just hope it stays that way.
American farmers have long struggled with high costs and low prices for their crops. But this year, there is even greater uncertainty in the fields. China stopped buying all U.S. soybeans in May, retaliation for President Trump's tariffs. Many American farmers were left without their largest export market. President Trump and China's President Xi Jinping came to a temporary truce, but farmers told us that whatever happens next with tariffs, the problems on their farms continue to run deep. We went to rural Tennessee and Missouri and met soybean and cotton farmers who told us they fear they could be the generation to lose the family farm.
Welcome to the 170th Annual West Tennessee State Fair in Henderson, Tennessee.
Since 1855, the West Tennessee State Fair has been the place where farmers from across the state come to show off their prized livestock and crops. It's where we met Jeffrey Daniels and Franklin Carmack. Friends since high school, they grow cotton, soybeans, and corn on their family farms.
As far back as I've been able to trace, my great-granddaddy's daddy was a sharecropper, and then just got passed down through the generations.
I guess you could say you've got farming in your blood.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And it's got to be in your blood nowadays to keep doing it.
Both of us are fifth-generation farmers.
Instead of showing crops at the fair this year like other farmers, they are selling T-shirts made from the cotton they grow to offset their losses in the fields. They sold about 250 shirts at $35 a piece. it was hardly enough. This year combined, they expect to lose nearly $800,000, leaving them in the red like many farmers across the country. Major row crops, including corn, soybeans, cotton, and wheat, have not been profitable since at least 2022.
You know, we're selling our commodities at the same price that we were selling them for and that our grandparents were selling them for in the 70s. So, you know, if you think about that, what can you go buy today that costs the same as it did in the 70s?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Times are especially tough now because of what are called input costs, everything a farmer needs to pull income from the ground, such as seed, equipment parts, and fertilizer. Those costs have increased by more than 30% in the last 5 years, in part due to inflation and rising interest rates.
The morale in the farming industry, not just farmers, is the lowest I've ever seen it. Everybody's on edge.
In the first 6 months of 2025, there were 57% more farm bankruptcies than the same period last year. Daniels and Carmack say tariffs have made this year even harder.
Every time we go buy something now, you know, the tariffs, what I've seen, the tariffs pass down to the consumer.
So if you have to go buy a new sprayer, like the one behind you,
Anything that comes from China that's on that sprayer, there's a tariff, and they're just going to pass it directly to us.
so the tariffs are hitting you more on the purchasing end than they are on the crop sales end.
China primarily uses soybeans to feed its massive livestock industry, grinding the beans into powder for feed. Soybeans have long been the largest U.S. export crop, worth nearly $25 billion last year, until sales ground to a halt this past May.
This weighs around 5,000 pounds.
Wow.
But
It's not just the soybean market. Cotton farmers have struggled with dwindling prices and decreased global demand as clothing manufacturers use more synthetic fabrics. Daniels and Carmack have had to take on second and third jobs, not just selling T-shirts, but driving trucks and repairing boats when they are not in their fields.
You've said you have almost no equity left.
It's getting down, it's getting low.
You think you can make it another year?
I don't know. Do you just keep going, rolling the dice, hoping things will turn? I mean, it's not looking good.
President Trump has promised a new bailout for American farmers, as much as $13 billion that he said would be paid for by the tariffs.
We're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers, who are, for a little while, going to be hurt until it kicks in. The tariffs kick into their benefit.
Like most farmers we spoke to, Daniels and Carmack say they'd rather work their fields than rely on taxpayer money.
It will help pay some bills, but that's not fixing the problem.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
got it.
Band-Aid when we need stitches.
Can you wait? Can you wait this out?
Farm families can't wait.
I hear it's affecting your health.
Yes. 4 blood pressure pills a day, 3 different medicines. 2 years ago, none.
What do you think about when you go to bed at night?
What's going to be left in a year, 2 years? Am I the one that broke what started in the late 1800s?
Nearly all U.S. farms are family-owned, and farmers told us one of the greatest pressures they face today is maintaining that legacy, keeping their farms in the family in the face of mounting debts. We were surprised by how often our conversations turned to the issue of farmers taking their own lives, something that has plagued farming communities for generations. But farmers we spoke to told us concerns for their neighbors rise when crop sales drop.
This is really odd for me.
This video went viral in the agriculture community last year. Soybean farmer Alex Kerr showed a grim reality in Illinois, where he also sells used farm equipment.
There are 3 tractors up here that I bought on auction. I'm not going to tell you which ones, but they came off of suicide. The reason that the farmers are no longer there, the reason I've got the tractors.
The suicide rate among agriculture workers is 3 times higher than the general working population, according to the CDC's most recent data in 2021. Our reporting shows that many rural mental health groups are now seeing increased crisis calls to their hotlines.
Do you feel like something's different right now?
I do, and to put my finger on it, it's really hard, but I know the numbers are going up. I know more people are affected. I know the prices of everything get higher and higher, and the stresses are added to it.
Jolie Foreman runs Shelby County Cares, a nonprofit focused on the high number of suicides among farmers. The organization is named after her eastern Missouri county, where there are no stoplights and 1 therapist for 6,000 people.
When you first started, you were seeing how many people take their own lives?
So back in 22, if you calculated it out, it was averaging out to about a life every 3 months. And it was like, this has to stop.
Though it's difficult to know how many lives have been saved, Foreman believes her program is working.
Shelby County had the highest rate of suicide per capita in the state of Missouri. Suicide is so hard. We cannot really determine our success. We only can calculate the losses. But we do know that the numbers here had started to trend down.
But in neighboring Macon County, Missouri, just a few miles away, there were 2 confirmed farm suicides this year.
Research shows that for every suicide, 130 people are affected.
Are you worried you could see an increase
Yes.
because of the situation?
Yeah. And just knowing that the counties around us have had increased, deaths by suicide, that's, I think, why the communities came together so well.
Shelby County Cares connects farmers with therapists either in person or remotely. Foreman said walk-ins and calls to her office have increased since the beginning of the year. She's learned the best way to get farmers who are traditionally stoic and fiercely independent to talk is through their wives and their stomachs.
Today we're going to make taco soup and crock-pot ranch pork chops and pulled barbecue chicken.
Her way in is a regular gathering of farmers' wives and friends, where we met as they prepared meal kits.
How many of you have been touched by suicide in your lives or your communities? Almost everybody at this table.
They isolate, they bottle things up. They think they need to solve their own problems, and they're afraid to reach out and they're afraid to lean on people. So they may feel that there's no other way or that somebody's going to be better off without them.
It's very much this perception of you have to be strong, you have to be tough. The weight of the world is ultimately on your shoulders.
Do you know farmers personally who have taken their own lives?
I do. In my own family, we've definitely had tragedy and have lost some very, important people in our own family.
Come on, girl.
Since the 1970s, Jolie's father-in-law, Brent Foreman, has lost 3 relatives, all farmers, to suicide. 2 neighbors of the family farm also recently took their own lives.
I've always had a fear for my kids and now my grandkids that we sure don't want history to repeat itself. No matter how bad things get, things always have a way of working out. They'll always get better.
Brent and his son Gerald grow more than 1,000 acres of soybeans and 650 acres of corn on a farm they manage themselves. They also raise more than 200 head of cattle, which means they are not reliant on soybeans as their sole source of income and can afford to wait for details on President Trump's new trade deal.
I have a lot of faith in him and a lot of trust in him, and I think he's trying to make us the best deal he can for the whole country, but for the American farmer for the long term.
Nearly 80% of voters in what are called farming-dependent counties voted for President Trump in the last election.
I feel like a lot of American farmers, cattle people, a lot of people probably feel let down currently. Now, maybe there's a method to the madness, that's still to be seen.
Many are now taking their frustrations directly to Republican lawmakers at town halls across the country.
I'm about ready to lose my farm. I am pissed, and I'm pissed at you.
This fall, the White House promised a $40 billion bailout of Argentina and its president, Javier Milei, President Trump's political ally. Argentina also grows soybeans and is considered a competitor. During the trade war, China had purchased soybeans from Argentina instead of buying them from the U.S. The bailout enraged many American farmers who felt betrayed.
President Trump said Argentina has got no money, they have no anything, they're fighting so hard to survive.
Come to the farm. Come walk in my shoes.
What would you show the president if he took you up on your offer to come and see the farm?
I'd show him the daily life that I do, from cleaning equipment, running equipment, dispatching trucks, and then I'd hand him a stack of bills. And then I would show him the receipts, what I'm getting from my crop, and he's a smart man. I'm not gonna take that away from him. And it won't take him to 5 minutes to say, this isn't gonna work.
The horse has played a central role in the history and mythology of many Native American tribes. The Shoshone, Crow, Blackfeet, Sioux, and other tribes first saw horses when Spaniards brought them to this continent 500 years ago, and have used them in hunting and in battle ever since. Collectively, these tribes call themselves the Horse Nations. As we first reported last year, men and women from those tribes also use horses in a sport that fans have dubbed America's original extreme sport. The tribes call it Indian relay. Its roots date back centuries, and it's one of the most exciting, dangerous, and inspiring things you're ever likely to see.
Welcome to the 2023 Championship of Champions.
We start at the start. In Indian relay, as many as 6 thoroughbred racehorses are brought to a start line drawn in the dirt. The horses are bareback, no saddles or stirrups. Their riders wear no protective gear. At the sound of a horn, they leap aboard and tear down the track.
To actually get on a horse bareback and run as fast as you can around is easy.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Ken Reelbird is a sort of senior statesman of Indian relay
It's going to be the team.
and announces races all over the American West.
These horses are able to run like you wouldn't believe. But the hard part comes from jumping off.
Wait, what? After the riders race one lap around the half-mile track,
On a rail, Riley.
they all speed into a sort of equine pit row, where teammates are waiting with fresh horses for what's known as the exchange.
So he has to come in, gear down enough, and then angle that horse in.
It's going to come in first. Yep.
He gets off and takes 1, 2, 3 steps, and he's on to the back of that horse.
They're going to end up
Boom, there he goes.
Here comes Carlson.
Ken Reelbird makes that flying leap from one horse to another sound simple. It is not. It's more like a dangerous, chaotic dance with riders and horses from 6 teams all trying to do the same thing at the same time in the same space.
You have what they call the setup man. Their job primarily is to have that horse in the proper position as the rider comes in.
Now here they come.
Simultaneously, you have a guy who's usually a nimble guy on his feet, and he's got to catch that horse coming in at 15 miles an hour. That horse, he really doesn't care about your feelings.
A third member of the pit crew is holding a third horse because the riders must do another leap for another lap. It's exciting, but it's dangerous too, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of injuries. Almost every heat will have some of the guys getting run over.
It's going to be a collision.
Can you imagine the front line of Kansas City Chiefs all combine in one and just run over you? That's what it's going to feel like, because that horse is 1,000 pounds.
Injuries to both horses and humans are part of the sport. The team that best avoids collisions and wins that third lap on a third horse can be forgiven for showing off at the finish.
Well, that was a great race.
Ken Reelbird says the roots of modern Indian relay are in the horse stealing raids that tribes once staged against white settlers and each other.
These young men of the different nations would travel when it was middle of the night. They would come and take the prize horse and hightail it back to their home country. They exchanged horses as they were running because they were being pursued. And so that's pretty much the origin of the Indian relay sport that we know today.
Races in the organized sport were first conducted in the early 1900s.
When they first started out, the majority of these races were happening within their own communities, native communities on them reservations.
I've seen some races.
Calvin Ghost Bear is a member of the Sioux tribe
7 heats, 8 heats.
and president of an organization called the Horse Nations Indian Relay Council.
What we do with Horse Nations is we basically took a lot of the races that were within the tribal nations, brought them out into the mainstream. Now we're bringing it onto a bigger stage.
The Summer Indian Relay Circuit crisscrossed the West and climaxed in Casper, Wyoming, with a 3-day championship event that celebrated tribal culture in song and drum and dance, and offered more than $100,000 in prize money, thanks to sponsorship from a casino owned by the Northern Arapaho tribe.
This is the ladies.
It included a women's division. It's 2 laps and 2 horses, rather than the 3 and 3 in men's races. But the athleticism and danger are every bit as evident.
Now, there's no quitting these kids.
There's also a kids' Indian relay,
Takes a great tumble.
with riders as young as 6 racing on ponies, climbing on and falling off.
He's going to be all right.
Those are the guys that grow up to be the great riders, the great setup men, because they're all horsemen. And it's like that in every reservation.
On the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana, we met Irvin Carlson and his son Chaz, who have been competing in Indian relay for years. Chaz is one of the most seasoned riders on the summer circuit.
For relay, making you good in the sport is just practice, 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 and years of experience.
We take Chaz is off. Chaz is in early. Chaz is out front.
Yay! Another team we followed through the summer Indian relay circuit is led by Tuesday Washakie from the Shoshone tribe in Wyoming. Her younger sister Zia is the rider for their women's team. Both feel a close connection to their horses.
If you're having a bad day and it's just not going your way, you can go out and you can catch your horse and ride him, and things will just seem to be better. I think that's just how it is.
Mason Redwing feels the same bond and obligation to care for his horses.
It's really something special because we're all here for one purpose, and it's the horse. Just setting up over here.
Mason hails from the Crow Creek Sioux Reservation in South Dakota.
When I was younger, I didn't know why I used to feel such anger and animosity towards my own people. I didn't want to be Native American. And the horse helped me, reconnect with my culture and be proud of who I am and proud of where I'm from.
Why were you feeling you didn't like being a Native American?
Growing up where I'm from on the reservation, you see a lot of things that make you not proud to
Like
be
what?
where I'm from. Alcoholism, drug addiction, drug abuse, suicide, Suicide rates on the reservation are 4 or 5 times the national average. My own father was succumbed to alcoholism, so it really hit home.
You said the horse saved your life.
Yep. Yes, sir. Essentially.
You think it does that for a lot of young Native American kids?
I think so. There's a lot of kids out there that are just looking for that doorway.
There's little glamour in Indian relay and lots of hard work. Every team is self-funded and nearly everyone has a day job to help pay the bills. But the sport is on the rise. Prize money is increasing, and 67 teams competed in the 2023 championships. The quality of horses is rising too. Teams go to major racetracks like Churchill Downs, home of the Kentucky Derby, to buy sprinters well suited to Indian relay.
Kentucky, that would be the ultimate, a demonstration race before the Derby. That would be my goal.
Lots of thrills and hopefully no spills today.
Each team competed in one heat each day of the championships. Their cumulative time from the first 2 days determined whether they made the final championship heat on Sunday.
Is the race usually won or lost in the exchange?
Yeah. It's like a relay team in track and field.
But in Indian relay, exchanges involve 6 riders, 18 horses, 18 other humans, and a cloud of dust.
From what I've seen, it's like
chaos.
Chaos.
In the block, it's gonna be OB dog.
Tuesday, Washaki's women's team made the championship heat in Casper.
OB dog is right there.
And her sister Zia had a clean exchange in that race. They finished a close second.
I don't know, you get demoralized, or does it make you more determined?
It makes me more determined, man. I'd be out here mad as hell, but I shouldn't be.
Winning it all is gonna be the Timon.
The first place women's relay team came from the Colville Reservation in Washington State with rider Talia Timontois.
Is this your first championship?
No, I actually won the first one in Walla Walla.
All right.
Yeah, when I was 13.
And how old are you now?
17.
17?
Yeah.
Wow. Are you going to do it again next year?
Yeah, I'm going to do it as long as I can. I love this game.
The day before, we had watched Talia win a heat with her arms raised in a pose of triumph and strength.
It is how we connect to the warriors of the past, the warriors of 200 years ago. It's that same bloodline of that warrior that is coursing through their blood.
Mason Red Wing.
Over 3 days of heats, we watched Mason Redwing and his team go from dirt-pounding frustration when an exchange went wrong to exultation as another went right.
Good.
Because we're always searching for that perfect run.
They didn't quite find it in the finals.
It's for the championship of the world.
The team that did was the one we'd first met months earlier on the Blackfeet Reservation, Irvin Carlson and his son Chaz.
So we've been following you like all summer. Like this is the culmination of everything you've done all year. So does this give you bragging rights for a year or what?
Oh yeah. Hey.
As a tribal elder sang a traditional praise song in honor of their victory, and organizers presented them with a check for $20,000, we noticed a group of kids at the rail, on their ponies, watching intently.
What the horse done for me, I know the horse can do that for everyone 1,000 times over, and I'm a firm believer in it. I know for a fact it can bring our young men and our young women back.
The drought-stricken Colorado River is in critical condition. Almost 2 years ago, the federal government declared the first ever shortage on the river, triggering cuts to water supplies in the Southwest. Today, the river remains unsustainably low. The Colorado is the lifeblood of the region. It waters some of the country's fastest-growing cities, nourishes some of our most fertile fields, and powers $1.4 trillion in annual economic activity. The river runs more than 1,400 miles from headwaters in the Rockies to its delta in northern Mexico, where it ends in a trickle. 7 states and 30 Native American tribes lie in the Colorado River Basin. As we first reported in 2021, the river has been running dry due to the historically severe drought. The majestic, meandering Colorado River that cut through these red cliffs, carving the Grand Canyon, is a wonder of nature and human ingenuity. The Glen Canyon Dam created Lake Powell, and 300 miles downriver, Lake Mead sits behind the Hoover Dam. These reservoirs are now being sucked dry by 40 million different straws. That's the number of people in booming western states who depend on the Colorado to quench their thirst, power their homes, water lawns, and splash in the sun. Its waters irrigate farms that produce 90% of the country's winter greens. To all these demands, add the stress of a 23-year drought, as dry as any period in 1,200 years, and you have a river in crisis.
These white bathtub rings, is this where the water used to be?
Absolutely.
Brad Udall, a climate scientist at Colorado State University, went out on Lake Powell with us.
So all of this would have been underwater?
Yeah.
So what does this tell you about what's happening on the Colorado River?
Well, it's a signal of the long-term problem we've been seeing since the year 2000, which is climate change is reducing the flows of the Colorado significantly.
Lake Powell and Lake Mead, the 2 biggest reservoirs in the country, were nearly full in 2000. By 2021, they'd fallen to about 30% capacity.
The lake's now 155 feet below full. It's dropped something like 50 feet this year.
And it's still dropping?
Yes. And that's when power generation actually becomes to come into question.
It'll drop so low that it may not be able to generate...
It may not be able to generate power.
Hydroelectric power.
Yeah.
Brad Udall has strong connections to the river. As Secretary of the Interior, his uncle, Stuart Udall, opened the Glen Canyon Dam. His father, Congressman Mo Udall, fought to channel river water to Arizona.
100 yards.
As a young man, Brad was a Colorado River guide. Today, he analyzes the impact of climate change on water resources.
Is the West on a collision course with climate change?
In some ways, yes, but we have fully utilized this system. We've over-allocated it, and we now need to think about how to turn some of this back. Because the only lever we control right now in the river is the demand lever. We have no control over the supply. So we have to dial back demand.
70% of Colorado River water goes to agriculture. When the federal government declared the water shortage, it triggered mandatory cutbacks. Pinal County, Arizona got hit hard.
Pinal County alone, we're going to be losing 300,000 acre-feet of surface water. That's water that would be delivered from Lake Powell, Lake Mead, as part of the Colorado River. 300,000 acre-feet is 98 billion gallons of water.
Waylon Wirtz farms 500 acres in Pinal County, south of Phoenix. His family has tilled soil here for 4 generations. It's some of the most productive land in the state. Crops from Pinal County are shipped all over the country. Wirtz grows gourds, cotton, and alfalfa. Profitable but thirsty crops, and his allotment of Colorado River water is being cut by 70%.
This is Colorado River water?
Yep, kind of the lifeline of our irrigated ag here.
This comes straight in from Lake Mead?
Correct. This is through hundreds of miles of canal system. It's made its way down here to central Arizona.
And what percentage of your water is supplied by this canal?
It's been close to 50% of the water that we've used to farm here. And this next year, it's probably going to drop down to about 20% of the water that we use.
That's 1/7 of what he was getting a decade ago. To use less water and make ends meet, Wirtz sold more than 300 acres to a solar farm. He dipped into retirement funds to repair and restart old wells. He laser leveled his fields to make irrigation more efficient.
But it's just not enough in the middle of this drought.
No, it's not enough. And
So, he told us, he'll have to leave 150 acres uncultivated.
what you see green here is eventually going to die. I hope we'll have enough water to plant it in the future, but more than likely it's going to stay brown for quite some time.
All the water users are going to have to give up something to keep that water in the lake.
Amelia Flores is chairwoman of the Colorado River Indian Tribes, a reservation of 4 tribes a few hours west of Phoenix, with the oldest and largest water rights in Arizona. After being moved to reservations, Southwest tribes got rights to about a quarter of the river's flow. But government red tape and lack of infrastructure have prevented them from using their full allotment. Flores told us until this drought, tribes were never included in water negotiations.
Why had you not had a seat at the table before this?
Because the tribes have always been overlooked in the policy making and in the law of the river, but that day has come to an end.
When Western states first divvied up the Colorado River in 1922, and later when the federal government built the Hoover and Glen Canyon dams, the future seemed boundless and manageable. Through negotiation and court battles, states worked out agreements, the law of the river, to split the water equally between upper and lower basin states. The lower states used just about all their allotment, and it's fed their tremendous growth. The upper states have never used their full share. Now they are booming and say they need the water they've been promised.
I can see the bathtub rings around here, too.
We're trying to keep every drop of water we can into this reservoir for next year's drinking water.
Zach Renstrom manages the water system for Washington County in southwest Utah. St. George, the county seat, is one of the fastest-growing metro areas in the U.S. Its population grew 29% this past decade. The state of Utah gets about a quarter of its water from the Colorado, but most of Washington County has only one source, the Virgin River, which fills this reservoir.
So right now, we're in the process of implementing really strict conservation measures. And if the cities don't adopt those standards, then we'll be out of water very quickly.
What is very quickly?
Within the next 5 to 10 years.
So in the midst of this drought, Utah is proposing to build a $1 to $2 billion pipeline able to bring 27 billion gallons of water a year from dwindling Lake Powell. Utah says it's entitled to the water by law.
You're talking about siphoning off water from a lake that's already at a critically low level to help a city grow in the desert.
Every state on the Colorado River was allotted so much water and a water budget. And so with their water budget, the state of Utah has decided that it wants to use a portion of its water here in St. George, Utah.
But it was a budget that was set when water was plentiful. It isn't anymore. What is Utah hoping for?
Utah wants the right to do what every other basin state has done. We want to make sure that we have water for our future, for a hotter, drier scenario that's coming up.
Building a multi-billion-dollar pipeline to pump out more water from an already rapidly declining reservoir simply doesn't make sense in the 21st century.
J.B. Hamby is vice president of the board that runs California's Imperial Irrigation District, one of the richest agricultural regions in the country, with the single largest allocation of water on the entire river.
There's a lot of urban growth and sprawl occurring in other parts of the Colorado River Basin that's really not necessarily sustainable.
Hamby says California's Imperial Valley farms have cut water usage almost 16% since 2003, but points out as the population of St. George, Utah grows, so does its water use.
We need to think and rethink about how we grow and if we grow and where we grow.
St. George would say that they're not asking for more, they're asking for what they need.
I think what we all need to have is a reality check here and recognize that we live in an era of limits right now, and that's not going away anytime soon. In fact, it's only going to get worse.
A big part of the problem is the law of the river itself, a hodgepodge of rules and regulations pieced together over the course of a century. For example, after all the litigation and negotiations, the law ends up allocating more water than actually flows down the Colorado. And this, in times of shortage, channels that provide more than a third of Arizona's water must run dry before California is required to cut back.
So wait a minute. Arizona is being called on to cut its water intake before California has to give up even one drop.
Pretty amazing. It can't work in today's world. And it's in some ways a little microcosm, right, of this whole law of the river with these systems that have been put in place that just don't work. They can't work. And that's why a rethink's needed.
One example of rethinking, the Colorado River Indian tribes agreed to leave fields uncultivated, leaving 48 billion gallons, almost 3 feet of water, in Lake Mead. The state of Arizona agreed to pay them for their losses.
My people want to help during this drought. We want to save the river because for centuries, the river has always taken care of us. So now we have to take care of the river.
That's what negotiations are all about, right? It may be there ways to conserve and figure out how to get the same goods and services for less water. Let's let ag grow crops that use less water. Let's figure out how to make cities use water as efficiently as possible. So, I mean, we need some optimism here, right?
Desert ground.
But as we saw at this meeting of Pinal County farmers, optimism is in short supply.
The farmer who's prepared the whole life, worked the land, farmed the land, is getting the short end of the stick.
Farmers here and across the Southwest feed the country, but it takes more than 2/3 of the Colorado River to produce the bounty. With lake levels dropping, Arizona farmers like Waylon Wirtz fear their fertile fields could become desert again.
You're going to see drastic cuts, a drastic change of what next year has to bring. And for my particular family farm, we're doing all that we can to keep it going, but I have a feeling it's just a matter of time before none of this exists.
Just off the side of the road sat a grand white house called Sharswood, silently holding secrets from the past, waiting for a new owner to uncover them. Sounds like the opening line of a Southern Gothic novel, but as we first reported in May of last year, this story is about a real family and a real house, this country's history, and a man who found himself at the center of far more than he had bargained for. The man is Fred Miller, a 57-year-old Air Force veteran who was looking to buy property in his Virginia hometown for his large extended family's frequent get-togethers. He had never heard the name Sharswood, and yet this old house would lead him on a journey of discovery with surprises and revelations that seem both impossible and inevitable all at once. These are the gentle hills of Pittsylvania County, Virginia, quiet rural farm country near the North Carolina border that once produced more tobacco than any county in the state.
Hey, we're gonna gather up in this room here mainly.
Fred Miller grew up here in a close family that likes getting together regularly for birthdays, fish fries, and as his cousin Adam Miller told us, just about anything.
We play games and we do like a lot of food competitions. And
I hear the food is mainly cake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Too many cakes.
Fred's cousin Tanya Miller Pope and his sister Deborah Coles told us it's a big family. Fred's mother Betty and his aunt Brenda were 2 of 11. How many cousins?
Oh,
At least 100.
So no wonder Fred needed to find
Yes.
a big
A huge place. Exactly.
Yeah. Fred lives in California, where he works as a civil engineer for the Air Force. But he visits the family in Virginia often.
One day, out of the blue, my sister called me and told me about a big house up the road for sale.
This sister right
Yeah.
here? Yeah. Karen Dixon Rexroth, Fred's baby sister, had spotted it.
Me and my mom was riding past the house and I saw the for sale sign. I said, oh my goodness, we have to get this house. I called Fred. Fred, this house is for sale. He's like, what house? I said, you know the house, the scary house, I call it.
The scary house was less than a mile up the road from their mom's. They'd passed it every day as kids on their way to school. What did you know about Sharswood?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing. No.
Just knew it was saw the house.
A big house. He was debating, should we put in a bid for it? I said, yes, absolutely, let's do it.
Did she twist your arm?
Took all the twisting she could do. I didn't want to buy it.
But thinking his bid would be rejected anyway, he made an offer of just above the $220,000 asking price. Why did you think they weren't going to accept the offer?
Well, I mean, initially to me, I thought that because I was black that they would never, surely they would never sell this house to someone that's black. So for us to be able to own this thing, I thought it would never happen in a million years.
So guess what happened? A million years.
A million years.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We used to always see this house out here.
So in May of 2020, Fred Miller purchased the fully furnished house plus 10.5 acres of land from a family called the Thompsons who had owned it since 1917.
The first time I drove up to the place, all I could do was stop at the edge of the road there and just look up in amazement, like, wow, this is mine.
This is an original room from the 1800s.
Karen says she got obsessed with the house, spending nights and weekends online researching its secrets.
Hiding spot, they say was from the Civil War, so they would hide the valuables.
A secret hideaway.
Yes, secret hiding spot.
She discovered the house had been built around 1850 in the Gothic Revival style by a well-known New York architect. And she learned and told her family that its name had been Sharswood.
Every day she was calling me with new information. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, relax.
Are you exaggerating?
No, I'm not exaggerating.
But then Karen turned up something that stunned her. In the 1800s, Sharswood had been the seat of a major 1,300-acre plantation, one of the larger ones in the county. What did you think of you owning a plantation?
I was a little shocked by that, I would say, because I just wanted somewhere to have family gathering.
When I found out that it was a plantation, and then I'm like, okay, Fred just bought a plantation. Right. I was like, we own a plantation. We own a plantation. Yeah, what we gonna do up there? So it was just a feeling of just power. It was just a powerful feeling.
It is.
Powerful, but of course, plantation implies slavery. And before the Civil War, Pittsylvania County held more than 14,000 enslaved people. The state of Virginia, just under 500,000.
I said, do you realize what this is? They didn't have a clue.
Dexter Miller, one of Fred and Karen's many second cousins, knew something about Sharswood because years ago he'd been co-workers with Bill Thompson, whose family then owned it. Bill joined us for a conversation on what used to be his childhood porch. You grew up in this house.
I did. This was my home.
He inherited much of the farmland and still lives up the road. His sister inherited the house and sold it to Fred. You know, when Fred was buying the house, he did not think that the house would be sold to a black person.
Why would you think that, Fred?
Probably because, you know, we are in rural Virginia, right?
Well, this is true.
For years, Dexter and another second cousin, Sonia Womack Miranda, had been trying to piece together the Miller family's origins, a notoriously difficult task for African Americans because records are hard to come by, especially before 1865.
It really was a hobby.
It was addictive. It was addicted. It
You
really
were like
was.
private eyes.
Yes.
And the land records.
They'd been able to trace the whole Miller clan back to one woman.
It's Dexter's great-grandmother. It's my great-great-grandmother, Sarah.
Sarah Miller.
Yes.
They had found a picture of Sarah Miller,
This is Sarah right here.
and they'd gotten hold of her death certificate, which showed that she'd been born in Pittsylvania County in 1868, just 3 years after the end of the Civil War. And they found an even better resource, one of their oldest living relatives, a beloved former schoolteacher named Marion Keyes. Miss Keyes, as everyone here calls her, recently turned 90. Sarah Miller is the matriarch of the family.
Yes, she was.
Did you know her?
Yes, I did.
Well, tell us about her.
She would always be out there with a broom in her hand, and then she would be waiting for us.
Marion Keyes remembers her great-grandmother, Sarah, as a force to be reckoned with.
What she wanted you to know, you were going to know it.
Was she persnickety, as they say? Was
Yes,
she difficult? Stern?
Very, very. She didn't play. She didn't play, but we loved her.
But that's where Miss Keyes' knowledge of Miller family history ended. She didn't know anything about the generations before emancipation. When you were growing up, what did you learn or hear from your parents about slavery?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. They did not talk about it. I don't know whether they were afraid, whether it was too miserable or painful, or they wanted to forget it. I don't know, but they did not talk to us about it at all. And we didn't ask them questions about it.
Why not?
We were afraid to.
We heard that again and again from members of the Miller family.
Slavery wasn't mentioned at all.
Was there almost a code? We don't talk about slavery, so nobody did?
It was something that every black person knew you didn't talk about. The parents would tell you not to discuss grown people business. That's what they'll tell you.
The first time slavery was discussed was, I guess in the 70s when Roots came, the movie Roots came about.
That's the first time? When Roots was on television? Did you read about it in school?
Not much.
His family also remembers Roots as pivotal.
Yes.
I think
That's
when we
all
of us felt like that.
That was an eye-opener.
But even after Roots, you didn't go and say, what about our family?
No,
Even
not
then,
at all.
What held you back?
I just didn't think they wanted to talk about it.
But didn't you want to know?
I would love to have known. I would love to have known.
Fred's purchase of Sharswood was about to give him a crash course in his hometown's slavery roots. It started with a call from 2 archaeologists who wanted to come do research.
We're historic preservationists, and so, we start from the idea that these places matter.
Dennis Pogue once worked at Mount Vernon, Doug Sanford at Monticello. They asked if they could come explore Sharswood, but they weren't interested in the ornate house designed by that famous architect. What they cared about was the dilapidated building with the tin roof past the big oak tree behind it. They suspected it had once been slave quarters.
There were once hundreds of thousands of these buildings. These were one of the most common types of architecture in Virginia.
Let me give you the running dimensions.
But now these buildings are rare, with fewer than 1,500 believed to be still standing. And Pogue and Sanford started a project to search for them.
So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fred and Karen invited them to come investigate. They examined, measured, and searched for clues.
You can see the siding is...
They showed us some of what they found.
These are the kind of nails that we expect to see on buildings before 1800. Handmade, wrought nails.
Handmade?
You can actually see the hammer strokes on the head.
Is this the original siding?
These are remnants of the original siding, absolutely. Okay.
They worked from noon to dusk and finally gave Karen and Fred their conclusion.
It's got a complex history, but we think part of that history, a big part of that history, was it was a quarter for enslaved folks.
They say it's one of the best preserved they've seen. They believe it was originally built in the late 1700s as a house for a white family.
That's where the original door was.
And was later divided into 2 separate single-room slave dwellings. 2 families.
Yeah, one household here,
another enslaved household over there.
It just showed that it was two different worlds. This front big beautiful world here and lavish, and you go right behind the house and it was a whole different story. It's kind of crazy for me just to even walk around out there.
Do you own that? Do you own the slave house too?
I own the slave house. I do. It's mine.
Wow. Fred Miller's purchase continues to surprise his family and intrigue historians when we come back. When Fred Miller unwittingly purchased what he now knows to be the Sharswood plantation house with slave quarters just behind it, he knew virtually nothing about his own family history. He'd always assumed his ancestors had been enslaved, but it felt to him like an unknowable part of a distant past. Learning about his great-grandmother, Sarah Miller, whom his mother had known as a child, piqued his interest. So when he found out her house was still standing just a few miles away from Sharswood, he asked his mother, Betty Dixon, to go there with him.
All right, we're gonna walk down through here.
Betty's grandmother, Sarah, had been the first of their ancestors to be born into freedom shortly after the Civil War.
Last time I saw this cabin, it had no light, no electricity.
Betty remembers visiting and spending the night here with her grandmother and cousins.
Whoa. What is the one room?
Sarah's house didn't look much bigger than the slave dwelling. Just a single room with a smaller one above it and no indoor plumbing.
Come a long ways, huh?
Sure did.
Glad I didn't have to live in here.
Well, you had to make it work.
You want a piece of this wallpaper to take with you?
Yeah.
Well, hope the landlord don't say nothing.
Oh, Lord, there you go.
Sarah Miller is buried in the cemetery of the church the Miller family still attends.
I'm glad now I can actually come in and see this thing.
But unbeknownst to this Miller family, just 5 miles up the road in a different church cemetery was a tombstone that also read Miller, a far older one with names Fred and his family had never heard of, but were about to. In Karen's search for information about Sharswood, she found a document that mentioned them.
It gave the names of the original owners, who was Nathaniel Crenshaw Miller and also Charles Edwin Miller.
Miller?
Yes, Miller.
Any light bulbs? Any wires connect?
No, not at that point.
At that time, it
Not
still
at that
didn't.
point, it did not.
Others had suspected a connection between the two sets of Millers.
Because I was telling Dexter back in '88, I knew.
Bill Thompson says he had mentioned the thought to Dexter 30 years ago.
What we had been taught in high school was that when they freed the slaves, they just took the last name of the person that was there, which was Miller. I just told Dexter, there's a good chance that your ancestors came off of this farm.
He did. He said that.
So you knew that this was a plantation?
I did.
Well, Fred, you said you didn't know.
I had no idea.
Dexter, you didn't tell Fred.
I did not tell Fred. I did not tell anyone.
Dexter says he'd kept it to himself because he hadn't found any way to prove it. And that's where this becomes a detective story, with the Miller cousins now on a mission to figure out whether it could be possible that their own ancestors might have been enslaved on the very property Fred now owned. The first step was figuring out who their last enslaved ancestors were. And Sarah Miller's death certificate held the answer: the names of her parents, David and Violet Miller, who would have been adults at the time of emancipation.
Did you know anything about them?
Not at all. Not at all.
I didn't know anything about them. We didn't.
Even Marion Keyes, who knew Sarah Miller, had never heard their names.
Nothing.
Wow.
Sure didn't.
I want everybody to know.
Enter Carice Luck-Brimmer, a local historian and genealogist. Karen reached out to her to see if she could help.
What are the special challenges looking for the ancestors of African Americans?
African Americans were not listed by name until the 1870 census. So before that, they were just a number.
I mean, if they were enslaved, they weren't listed
at all. So really, you're just looking for any type of tips and clues that you can.
She started by looking at 1860 records for Sharswood's then owner, NC, for Nathaniel Crenshaw Miller.
There he is.
NC Miller right there. Okay.
Yeah, he had 58 slaves here.
But with only age and gender listed, you have enslaved people 69, 44, 34, and not a single name.
No
There
names.
was no way of knowing whether Violet and David were among them. So Carice looked up David and Violet Miller in the 1870 census, the first one after the Civil War, where they finally appeared by name. It showed they were farmhands, that they couldn't read or write, and it listed their children, including, as Carice showed us, a very young Sarah Miller. There's Sarah. She's 1 year old.
1 year old.
And this looks like Emily.
Yes.
She's 3. And here's Samuel.
Yeah.
He's 5. To Carice, that meant Samuel, Sarah's older brother, was born before emancipation. So Carice searched for him in another historical record called the Virginia Slave Birth Index, where slave owners had to list births on their property.
This document.
And there, under N.C. Miller's name,
NC.
Right.
And there's Samuel.
Was Samuel.
And look at that.
Oh my
Lists
word.
Violet as his mother.
It was the genealogy equivalent of a smoking gun. So this is proof that Violet, Sarah's mother, was enslaved by
Yes.
N.C. Miller.
Yes.
And this is absolute proof.
This is absolute, definite proof.
And you were able to tell Karen
that her ancestors, David and Violet, were enslaved at Sharswood. That was tough.
So did you call Fred?
I did. I don't think he believed me in the beginning.
So the connection suddenly is made with your family, slavery,
right,
in this house.
In this house.
And you own it.
Once I realized that it was actually my blood that was here, it took on a whole new meaning for me. It really saddens me sometimes when and I'm up, a lot of times I'm up wee hours of the night now just thinking about what happened here.
As news spread through the family, there was sadness. But that's not all there was.
I almost felt like I was losing my breath for a moment. It was almost like a feeling of being found. Yes. This is where I started. And as Black people, we don't always know where we started.
So here we are sitting in this house.
Can't believe it. I can't believe it that I'm in the plantation house of the plantation that my family was enslaved.
You're laughing as if this cannot be true.
Be. That's right. But it is.
I feel complete.
Wow.
I'm not half of a human being anymore. They make me whole, even if I don't know them. I felt a connection to them at Sharswood.
I touched the tree. I hugged the tree. And I said, oh my God, you was here when my ancestor was here. I wonder which ancestor of mine touched the tree. I didn't know what to say or do. I just hugged the tree and felt like I'm home.
He shared the news with Bill Thompson, who had had that hunch all those years ago.
I look at it that I've been a servant to this farm and this house my whole life. And for the Miller family to come back home, to my home, our home.
Our home, absolutely.
It's great. It's a celebration of coming home.
This is God. This is where we're supposed to be. It's like a full circle, like it was meant to happen. To me, like it was meant to happen.
The Millers also see the hand of their ancestors in all of this.
I think there had to be because I did everything in my power to make this fail.
Did not make it happen. Yeah.
I tried to mess it up at every angle.
But those ancestors had one more surprise in store. With all the revelations, there was one question that continued to gnaw at Dexter. Where were his enslaved ancestors buried? So last winter, he asked Bill.
I said, Bill, is one question that's been bothering me. Where is the slave cemetery? He said, Dexter, it's right over there. I said, right over where? He said, you see those trees over there?
So did you just go right up there then?
We went right up there.
The trees Bill Thompson pointed to, just beyond Fred's property, sure didn't look like a cemetery. That is, until you start to look closely.
Is that one of the? That's one of them right there.
Oh,
that's
my
the
God.
headstone. As you can see, this is the indention right there. The headstone there. Maybe this is the footstone on the other end.
Yeah.
There's always seemed like to be there's one.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Poking up through the leaves all around us were pointed rocks, some small, some medium-sized. No names, no engraving, just plain anonymous markers of many, many lives.
Wow. This is astonishing.
It's
kind of overwhelming, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I mean, we all live in the same area. We come past this place, and we would not know that our ancestors were right there beside us the entire time.
Fred, if you hadn't bought that house?
Right. You're right.
If I hadn't bought that house, we'd never know.
Never.
Never.
So how has all of this affected you?
It's changed me. It's definitely changed me.
You ever angry?
I get a little bit upset sometimes when I find out things that I should have known already.
Angry at yourself?
At myself and at the system, because I think that we should have known more.
What about the school system?
Should have known more.
Family?
Should have known more, absolutely.
You want the story of slavery told.
I want the story of slavery told. It's important.
So this was converted from a door to a window?
Yeah. So
Fred wants to do whatever's necessary to preserve the slave house.
this has been exposed for 200 years.
Yeah, right.
He's in the process of setting up a nonprofit to make that possible.
That's important to me too, because I know a whole lot of emphasis on that big white house there.
Well, exactly.
But this right here is really near and
This
dear
is
to
the
me,
story.
right?
This
Yeah,
is-
this is the
this is
story
a
right
family
here. Yeah,
story.
absolutely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 right here.
And he's been thinking about the cemetery too.
I can imagine this being someone young.
We have to do something about this.
Yeah, have to. And I will. I'm gonna fix it.
Do you think you might allow historians to come and
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely. This place will be open to anyone who wants to learn.
anyone?
Anyone can come here.
But for now, Sharswood is serving the purpose Fred bought it for in the first place, gathering the Miller family together in celebration.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
What do you think Violet and David would think? They could see that you own this place.
Yeah, I'm hoping they will be proud of us, and I think they would be. They endured a lot. I mean, I can't even imagine what they went through. Looking down on us now, they must be smiling at us.
Since our story first aired, Fred Miller took a new job in Virginia to be closer to his family. He has set up a nonprofit Sharswood Foundation to maintain the slave quarters and cemetery and has begun offering tours of the house.
It is virtually impossible these days for any small farmer to stay in business without access to credit. Most are dependent on loans from the United States Department of Agriculture to get them through from crop to crop. But while the money for those loans comes from Washington, The Agriculture Department officials who approve them are elected in local counties. As we reported last November, for black farmers, that's been a problem because they say the white-controlled local committees discriminate against them by not granting them the loans they in fact qualify for. Eddie Ross says that's what happened to him. Ross is a farmer in Vicksburg, Mississippi. For 12 years, he successfully managed a 1,000-acre farm for a local white landowner. But Ross wanted to farm on his own.
I wanted more out of life than just staying there on a farm, getting a basic farm salary, and I wanted to have a future in farming just as my grandfather and the people before him did.
So in 1991, Ross, like most other small farmers in the area, black and white, went to the local office of the Department of Agriculture to apply for a loan. He needed the money to buy seed and rent equipment so he could farm 775 acres of land for himself, money he would eventually pay back when his crop went to market. But the committee, 3 locally elected white men, turned him down.
They just said it was inadequate management ability to farm a farm of that size.
Did you talk to them? Did you say, look, I've been farming 1,000 acres over here?
Yes.
For 12 years?
Yes.
How did you feel when they turned you down?
It really was a big disappointment to my family and the community where I live.
Ross felt he had been unfairly rejected, so he filed a discrimination complaint with the Agriculture Department's state office. But by the time it ruled in his favor, it was too late to plant. So Ross waited and reapplied the following year, and again the year after that. Each year after being turned down, he filed a civil rights complaint. Finally, in 1993, the local committee granted Ross a loan.
I got the money on time, and mid-season in July, while the cotton was growing and needed attention, the county supervisor stopped the operating funds. And his reason for doing that was that I had filed legal actions and civil rights complaints.
What did that have to do with filing for the loan?
Well, it didn't have anything to do with filing for a loan. It was clear-cut discrimination there.
And by him stopping the operating funds, what's the result of that?
The crop that was in the field just went to waste.
Frustrated by what was happening to him in Mississippi, Ross decided to take his complaints to Washington. Over the last few years, he has made the 20-hour drive some 30 times to join hundreds of other black farmers protesting similar mistreatment.
If you want to eat, get on your feet. If you want to eat, get on your feet.
How long will you keep doing this? How many times will you come back to Washington?
I'll keep coming back to Washington until they resolve this case.
It was demonstrations by black farmers like Ross that first made Secretary of Agriculture Dan Glickman aware that he had a problem.
There is no question that in a lot of places in the country, minority farmers did not get the loans that non-minority farmers would get, operating loans. And in some cases, we had thwarted farmers and maybe contributed to their demise in agriculture. So it was a very serious problem.
A very serious problem on the local level, but also in Washington. Back in 1983, the Agriculture Department's National Office of Civil Rights, the office responsible for policing civil rights abuses at the local level, had its budget cut. And for the next 14 years, complaints from black farmers just piled up because there was no one to look at them. Last year, Lloyd Wright was brought in to take over the national office and clean up the mess.
So if you're a black farmer who had a civil rights complaint during that period, what happened to your complaint?
Not much, to give you the bottom line.
We've heard stories of complaints literally being thrown in the trash can because there was no structure to deal with them. Is that
Some
true?
of that occurred. And some of the ones filed at the county level were thrown in the trash while the farmer was still in the office.
Wright was even more disturbed once he started reviewing the backlog of individual cases.
I reviewed one case where a very senior farmer had gone out of business, and it turned out that the office manager had a check in the safe that had that check been given to the farmer, he would never have gone out of business.
Charlie Featherstone is the office manager accused of holding back that farmer's check. He's now retired, but for 25 years, Featherstone ran the local agriculture department office in Brunswick County, Virginia. We met him at the local pork festival.
How do you feel about black farmers?
I'm all for 'em. I'm for any farm.
You never discriminated against anyone because of their color.
No, sir.
And anyone who says that is just mistaken, just plain wrong.
Yes, sir.
Featherstone also denies charges from black farmers that he would routinely sleep in his office while they waited outside to see him.
Sometimes when I had to think of something or did quite a bit of calculations in my head, sometimes atmospheric pressures would close my eyes to do that.
The atmospheric pressure would close your eyes.
Yes, sir.
But Calvin Brown, a farmer in Brunswick County, says atmospheric pressure had nothing to do with it. He says plainly and simply that Featherstone just didn't like black people.
He was prejudiced against color. Mr. Featherstone definitely was prejudiced against color.
What did he do?
It's what he didn't do. He treated the farmers, like they were dirt, really. I called him at the time King Charles.
Brown farms tobacco on land that was passed down to him from his father. Back in 1984, Featherstone required Brown to keep his USDA loan in a supervised account that needed Featherstone's signature for withdrawal. But when Brown needed money to rent a barn to dry his harvested tobacco, Featherstone was nowhere to be found.
I couldn't get him on the phone, couldn't get him in person. He was in his office.
In the meantime, your tobacco's sitting outside.
Running.
If the tobacco doesn't go in the barn, you're going to lose it.
Going to lose it. To me, this was deliberate trying to destroy me.
Why would he want to do that?
I don't know why, unless because I was black.
So that year, 1984, after losing his crop, Brown filed a discrimination complaint with the USDA.
When did you finally hear from the Agriculture Department?
I just heard from him this year.
13, 14 years later.
That's right.
That's when Brown got this letter saying the Office of Civil Rights was continuing to process his complaint.
After your experience with Charlie Featherstone, did you continue to borrow money from the Department of Agriculture?
They wouldn't lend me money.
Why?
They said I didn't qualify.
And where do you get credit from today?
Oh, I got all kind of credit today. I even have a platinum credit card.
So you have a platinum credit card with a line of credit of
$18,600, I believe.
$18,600.
Sure do.
Yet Charlie Featherstone didn't want to give you any money.
He didn't want to give me any money.
Today, Brown, who says he'll never have anything to do with the government again, has signed on to a $2.5 billion class action lawsuit against the Agriculture Department for past discrimination. Some 600 other black farmers have already joined the suit. J.L. Chestnut, at one time a lawyer for Dr. Martin Luther King, is one of their attorneys.
And we are living at a time when if anywhere you listen, there are folk who saying that racism is a thing of the past. This case represents the most effective rebuttal to that mythology I know.
Chestnut and Al Prairie, another lawyer on the case, hold regular meetings of black farmers. This one is in Chula, Mississippi.
You said that this lawsuit is about money.
It is. It's about white people afraid to admit that they don't want to give black people what they should have got. It's all about money.
But money for whom? How does the Agriculture Department determine who deserves what? And for that matter, who has really been mistreated and who might just be jumping on the bandwagon of an explosive political issue?
There are some of the cases that have been filed that do not justify relief and ought not to be settled and ought to be dismissed. But there are an awful lot of cases that are legitimate and justifiable, and we have to differentiate between the two.
Secretary of Agriculture Glickman told us he feels the department should settle complaints on a case-by-case basis. But the lawyers in the class action suit don't see it that way.
Don't you have to examine the merits of each case?
No, because the pattern in every single one of them is the same. It's the same thing, which is file a discrimination complaint, government doesn't process it. That's denial of due process every single time.
I just can't give somebody a check because they come in and ask for one. I do still have to prove the case. And by the way, it may just be that The farmers may get a little more money and the lawyers may get a little less money with some of these administrative settlements than it will come with the class action.
Some people, like the class action lawyers, for example, say that the Department of Agriculture is racist from top to bottom. There are other people who will tell you that there really is no big problem here. Where's the truth?
Somewhere in between. I think we have some racism in the department. And if there's anything different in the department than you'd find elsewhere, is I think we have too many people that's willing to tolerate racism.
Some farmers have told me that they regard the Department of Agriculture as the last plantation.
I can understand why they would. Hopefully that's changing and it's going to change.
But for the 600 black farmers in the lawsuit, things aren't changing fast enough. Remember Eddie Ross? A year ago, the government agreed to settle his discrimination complaint for a reported $500,000. But Ross is still waiting for the bulk of the money because for the past year, the government has maintained that there is a statute of limitations on the complaints he filed before 1993.
And they're now telling you that even though your complaints are valid, they can't pay you for those complaints because they're too old, even though for the period in which you had those complaints, they had no system in place to deal with it.
Correct. That's exactly what they're telling us.
Seem fair to you?
No, they're punishing us for their faults.
Just last month, Congress voted to eliminate the statute of limitations, so in theory, Ross should finally get his money. But to date, that has not happened. In the meantime, Ross is back doing work for white farmers and often goes by the land he almost worked for himself.
I drive by that farm quite often, and it gives me the feeling that I've been cheated and that the promise of the American way is for certain people. And as of now, I feel that I'm not one of those people.
After our story aired, the government settled Eddie Ross's complaint for an undisclosed amount of money. The government also agreed to settle with the 28,000 other black farmers who have signed on to the class action lawsuit by giving each one $50,000 tax-free and writing off all their past debt.
The Farm Bureau is, in effect, the voice of the American farmer, as much a fixture in small-town America as the local church or post office. And since its founding back in the early 1900s, farmers have been supporting this nonprofit association with their annual dues because over the years the Bureau sold them insurance when other companies wouldn't, and lobbied effectively for government subsidies, federal crop insurance, a stable income for family farmers. But as we reported last April, with thousands of farmers facing financial ruin, a lot of family farmers say the Farm Bureau has done little to help them while they're sinking in debt. We found that folks at the top of the Farm Bureau have been building a financial empire worth billions, some of it invested in the very agribusiness giants that many family farmers say are running them out of business. Last January, the American Farm Bureau Federation and its 50 state chapters held their annual convention in Houston, Texas.
Times are hard in farm country. In times like this, we farmers look to Farm Bureau for answers.
And no one doubts that the American Farm Bureau, founded some 80 years ago, has the political muscle, as the self-proclaimed voice of agriculture, to help farmers in need. It's the kind of power that politicians respect.
I am George W. Bush, and I want to welcome you all to the...
And George W. Bush has 5 million reasons to welcome the Farm Bureau because that's how many members it has nationwide. For that kind of support, Fortune magazine ranks the Farm Bureau as one of the most potent lobbying forces in Washington.
More people than ever before belong to the world's greatest farm organization.
To learn more about what the Farm Bureau does, we took a close-up look at the Iowa chapter, whose president is Ed Wiederstein. He also serves on the Farm Bureau's national board.
Our mission statement for Farm Bureau is to help family farms prosper and increase their quality of life.
Wiederstein's family raises livestock and grows corn and soybeans in Audubon, Iowa. The Iowa Farm Bureau has about 150,000 members, each of whom pays on average about $40 in annual dues. And many of them seem happy with their association, a fact that the Farm Bureau is eager to publicize in promotional videos like this one.
Farm Bureau became our family.
You wouldn't necessarily know it from this video or from Mr. Wiederstein, but the Farm Bureau's political agenda goes far beyond farming. Ken Cook runs the Environmental Working Group, which has battled the Farm Bureau over environmental issues.
Well, I guess when you hear Farm Bureau, you probably have some pretty romantic thoughts about rural areas. You think about the front porch and the rockers and the farmhouse. But the fact of the matter is that's not what the Farm Bureau is about.
He says what the Farm Bureau does should concern all Americans, even those who have nothing to do with farming.
If you're concerned about civil rights, they opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They want to repeal it, cornerstone of civil rights law. If you think that the minimum wage is too low, they oppose raising it. If you think that we shouldn't be drilling offshore for oil, they want to drill offshore for oil. In most of these instances...
What does this have to do with farming?
Well, that's a very good question. It really doesn't have anything to do in many cases with farming whatsoever.
And some family farmers say that shows the Farm Bureau cares less about them and more about its vast network of for-profit companies, including insurance, mutual funds, and banking.
If you take off the feed cap and you take off the overalls, it's a big business agenda.
That is the headquarters of the Iowa Farm Bureau, a tax-exempt, non-profit organization that nonetheless owns and operates a for-profit, $3.5 billion financial services company that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. That company, FBL Financial Group, through its various holdings, invests millions in corporate America, including such diversified food giants as Conagra, a so-called agribusiness. And while the Iowa Farm Bureau prospers, Iowa's family farmers like Chris Peterson are facing financial ruin because, they say, agribusinesses are squeezing them out.
Well, last year I had to take and remortgage everything I own, all my machinery, my farm, everything. Remortgage it, and I'm paying for it all over again. I already paid for it once.
Only a few years ago, Peterson was debt-free, but after 26 years of farming, he is now $200,000 in the hole and driving a school bus. His wife and kids also work jobs off the farm, and yet they're still falling behind. Now, are other family farmers suffering the way that you are?
Oh, you bet. There's thousands of us.
Peterson recalls the recent suicide of an Iowa farmer who left this note for his widow and children.
Everything is gone, wore out, or shot, just like me. All I ever wanted was to farm since I was a little kid, and especially this place. I know now that it's never going to happen. They finally won. This was left by a guy in southern Iowa that took his life last summer.
You know Chris Peterson?
I know who he is, yes.
He's about $200,000 in debt. He's just bust. What did you tell Chris Peterson?
Well, I can tell him I'm going through the same thing, too.
But unlike Peterson, Ed Wiederstein got help from stock options he received as a director and chairman of the Iowa Farm Bureau's for-profit business, FBL Financial. Well, come on, a couple of $100,000 from stock options when you cash in.
That's right, and no doubt that helped me out. But I've got 4 kids in school, and that's part of it. I mean, that's the way it is.
Other directors of FBL Financial also got stock options, including the presidents of 13 state farm bureaus, options that were not available to the average family farmer. You're a Farm Bureau member. You're a member of the board in this county. What has the Farm Bureau done to help you and your family?
Basically nothing.
Like Peterson, these farmers say they too are struggling to make it with little help from the Farm Bureau.
The markets that we are forced to sell into have all been consolidated. Just play the game of Monopoly and watch how the money flows in to you when you get to the place where you control the game board. Well, the same thing is happening in agriculture today.
Agribusiness.
Agribusinesses.
Agribusiness mergers are continuing, they say, because the Farm Bureau recently helped defeat national legislation that would have imposed an 18-month moratorium on such mergers.
All their decisions is made for corporate America.
Why?
Because they own part of it.
Including the 18,000 shares that one Farm Bureau company in Mississippi owns, in premium standard farms, the corporate hog processor that family farmers say is driving them out of business. How much do average Iowa farmers know about their Farm Bureau's for-profit companies?
Very little. Absolutely nothing.
I don't think they are aware of it either.
The Farm Bureau defends its investments, saying they make it possible to fund education programs and to sell farmers things they need, like insurance. Still, Chris Peterson says he can't afford Farm Bureau insurance, much less invest in its mutual funds. And then there are the Farm Bureau's own questionable investments, says Gary Beershank, who ran unsuccessfully for the presidency of the Iowa Farm Bureau.
They're using farmers' money to invest outside agriculture while farmers are struggling. That just burns me up.
Case in point, a startup airline in Des Moines called Access Air. The Farm Bureau and two of its affiliated companies together sank at least $1 million in it.
What about Access Air? Doesn't have anything to do with farmers.
Doesn't have anything to do with farm, that's right. It's just strictly one of the investments that we had.
And it's bankrupt.
Well, it appears that way.
Not all their investments have been so bad, but the Access Air fiasco still angers Jim Brown. Late last year, he was in Des Moines lobbying the legislature to give struggling farmers low-interest loans.
A state legislator came out to me, furious, because he said Farm Bureau was spending more time lobbying to get a financial bailout from the state for Access Air than they were spending to get this legislation through.
The Farm Bureau disputes that account, although one legislator confirmed to us much of what Jim Brown said. That legislator declined to appear on camera, citing the Farm Bureau's political muscle. Muscle that the Farm Bureau is not afraid to flex against critics like Rod Thorson, son of a family farmer, and a popular radio talk show host in rural Illinois.
For 6 years, had a radio program on twice a day where we made sure on a daily basis we were an advocate for the family farmer. Highly rated, revenue coming in, everybody seemed to be happy.
Everyone, it seemed, except the Farm Bureau, which apparently didn't appreciate his comments on big corporate hog farms, which he says are driving thousands of family hog farmers out of business.
I came in 5:30 in the morning, general manager met me. He said, after reviewing tapes of your show provided me by the Farm Bureau, we've decided to terminate your employment effective immediately. You would need your key and you've got 15 minutes to go.
Farm Bureau plays hardball.
Oh, indeed, yes. I play hardball too, though. We're back on the air.
And at a bigger and better station, he says. Paul and Linda Schutt have nothing to do with farming, but they say they too experienced the Farm Bureau's hardball tactics.
We have a bread store in downtown Chicago, and it's just a very small bread store. We do about 28 different kinds of hearth breads.
In their store, they collected petitions for a group called Defenders of Wildlife, which was trying to stop the Farm Bureau's campaign to remove wolves from Yellowstone National Park. Linda brought the signatures to the Farm Bureau.
And I thought that was the end of it.
Yeah, but it wasn't?
The next week we got visited by the FBI at our little bread store.
What are you talking about?
We had FBI agent come to our bread store and investigating us as though we were a threat to the Farm Bureau.
I expressed my irritation that they were wasting public money and FBI time on behalf of the American Farm Bureau.
The Farm Bureau remains strong politically because its membership keeps growing, but there's a catch. Many, if not most of its members, are not farmers at all, and they know little or nothing about what the Farm Bureau stands for. And they live in urban areas like Chicago, Illinois.
You're the vice president of a Chicago bank, right?
Right.
Sally Ann Garner was surprised to discover that she, like so many others, had become Farm Bureau member simply by buying Farm Bureau car insurance.
You raise no crops.
No, I have nothing to do with farming.
You've never lived on a farm.
Never lived on a farm.
Do you know that the Farm Bureau, of which you're a member, favors repealing the Voting Rights Act?
No.
Eliminating the Department of Education?
No.
Eliminating the Department of Energy? Oppose the Equal Rights Amendment? Oppose gun control?
I did not know that.
We've taken a very common sense approach to issues.
Ed Wiederstein expressed disbelief when we told him that his association's updated policy manual says the Farm Bureau wants to repeal the Voting Rights Act.
I guess I would be surprised if it's in there. I really would be. I would be surprised if it's in there.
It's in there. It is.
I'd have to look then.
So we showed him.
Well, you're right. It's right there. In fact, I'm shocked.
Why is it that when the cattle are fat and the crops are good, all the farmers are poor? The skilled lobbyists in agriculture in Washington are Farm Bureau lobbyists. And they're sure happy to come to the aid of agribusiness when they need something, but when the American farmer needs some relief, where are they?
It's a question that more struggling farmers today are asking. Nonetheless, the billion-dollar Farm Bureau marches on, proud and bigger than ever, still selling itself as a friend of the family farmer.
We are daughters and sons of the soil.
This story, when it first aired, received one of the biggest audience responses of the season. More than 100 farm and environmental groups called for a congressional investigation of the Farm Bureau's tax status and its financial ties to agribusiness. And American Farm Bureau President Bob Stallman was quoted in the media as saying he would consider a comprehensive review of his group's policy. But when we called the Farm Bureau to find out when that review might take place, they declined to take our call.
Gas prices are passing $3 a gallon and climbing. Oil companies are making record profits. And there's serious concern about this country's dependence on foreign oil. Those things have sparked a lot of talk about using something else instead of oil to fuel our cars. Brazil faced similar problems and already has solved most of them. Instead of gasoline, many Brazilians are using ethanol, which can be made from plants into a kind of alcohol to power their cars. It's cheaper and cleaner. As a result, Brazil has virtually stopped importing expensive foreign oil. So we wondered, why can't we do that here? Farmers, automobile makers, Wall Street investors, and many scientists think we can.
15 years ago, Brazil made a commitment to burning ethanol made from sugarcane as a primary vehicle crop. And lots of energy analysts have scoffed at the idea.
Professor Daniel Kamen heads the Renewable Energy Lab at the Berkeley campus of the University of California, where he studies ethanol and other alternative fuels. He's watched Brazil's ethanol experiment for years.
They saw the price trends for ethanol from sugarcane going down, and of course the global price of gasoline going up. And so they made it work, and it wasn't even that hard.
We went to Brazil to see how they made it work. We found Brazil had two problems. They grew more sugarcane than they could sell, and their economy was being strangled by the high price of imported oil. Making ethanol out of sugarcane solved both problems. In cities like Sao Paulo, with 18 million people, they call ethanol álcool, and it's sold at every gas station right alongside gasoline. Ethanol really took off in Brazil when flex fuel cars went on sale 4 years ago. These cars gave drivers a choice. They can use gasoline or ethanol, or any combination of the two. Because ethanol is cheaper, the law of supply and demand took care of the rest. There's already a substantial supply of ethanol here in the U.S., where the fuel is made from corn instead of sugarcane. You might have noticed at your local gas station that some ethanol is already in the fuel. Here it's 10% ethanol. Oil companies add ethanol to gasoline because it boosts octane. But using ethanol only as an additive won't replace much foreign oil, unless Americans switch to what's called E85. 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline. But it's not a simple switch to make. Out of about 170,000 gas stations in the U.S., only 650 sell E85. And the engines in conventional cars may not perform as well with E85 and could be damaged by it.
Ultimate flex fuel vehicle.
In Detroit, they've solved the car problem by making small modifications to a standard engine's fuel supply and injection systems. That produces the same kind of flex fuel cars they've been selling in Brazil, and it doesn't cost any more than a conventional car. Flex fuel automobiles adjust automatically to whatever's put in the tank, gas, ethanol, or any combination. You can convert a standard car like this one into a flex fuel vehicle, but you'd need a skilled mechanic and some parts to do it. Ethanol isn't new to the auto business. The first Model Ts ran on it.
We've been working on this ethanol fuel for a long, long time.
Rick Wagner is the head of General Motors. Before he took over the company, he ran GM's operations in Brazil.
I think what we like about ethanol in this case is that there are things that we can really do right now. It doesn't require massive technology breakthroughs, and it does legitimately reduce the amount of oil the country has to import.
Today, there are about 5 million flex fuel cars on American highways. A third of them were made by GM, which now is spending millions to advertise the flex fuel cars it makes.
Yellow is the color of corn, refined into E85 ethanol.
But in the past, GM and other automakers have touted other kinds of alternative fuel cars.
You talk about electric cars, you talk about hydrogen cars, now about ethanol cars. I guess the gut question is, are you serious about this?
Fair question. The direct answer is yes. We've got 1.5 million units on the road as we speak. We'll be producing more than 400,000 this year. So we actually think ethanol is a really good choice if we want to diversify the supply of fuels into the United States.
That ethanol would come from America's heartland, places like Steamboat Rock, Iowa, population 300. Until a year ago, Steamboat Rock was struggling with a stagnant farm economy, like many Corn Belt towns.
I felt like the farming community was pretty dormant, and I have a son that I would like to get back on the farm, and there just wasn't enough income to support 2 families.
Mark Seward raises corn on a farm near Steamboat Rock. Even though there's a bumper crop most years, the price of corn stayed low. So he and some other area farmers looked for another use for their corn. They took a big gamble. They invested their life savings and convinced neighbors to do the same, to build a factory that would turn corn into ethanol. We met with some of them recently. Larry Meintz is a local farmer and the chairman of the board of the Pine Lake Processing Plant.
There was any point where your friends and neighbors said, I think you're crazy to get into this business?
I think there was, but not too many said that to my face.
But not all of them ended up the money either.
Not all of them, no. I think most of them that didn't now wish they would have.
That's because business is very good. The plant opened just a year ago and quickly hit maximum capacity. By the way, that's harmless steam, not pollution you see coming out of the smokestack. We talked with Meintz and other members of the plant's board of directors. Mark Seward, who you just met, Polly Granzo, and Larry Hansen.
What has been the impact on the community?
The biggest impact right now is I think we've raised the price of corn in this area 5 to 10 cents a bushel.
If you've got 8 million bushel coming in, all that extra money that was being sent down the river is now here in the community.
There are oil fields in Texas, and that is called their black gold, and I think Iowa, that's our green gold.
The folks at the plant showed us how they do it. Huge trucks filled with corn come into the plant every day and unload their cargo into what is, in reality, an industrial-sized distillery. In this maze of pipes and tanks, corn, water, and yeast are mixed and fermented into beer. Plant manager Scott Durow explained.
In 48 hours, each fermenter will make about 15% volume beer. I have a little back here.
Well, I'm not sure we're going to drink any, but...
No, this isn't stuff you want to drink. It's non-filtered, but it's very sweet smelling, and you definitely tell it's a beer.
Well, it doesn't look like any beer I've ever had.
That's running about 2,000 degrees.
Then, under high temperatures, the mixture is distilled in a giant version of an old-fashioned corn liquor still. What emerges at the end is ethanol, which is nearly pure alcohol. Trucks carry it to a nearby railroad line. For the farmers who own the plant, ethanol is more than just a new way to make money.
Ethanol has been one of the best kept secrets that is out there. We know it's a good product. We know it's good for the economy. We know it's good for the environment.
And more people are seeing it that way. To meet rising demand, the plant will expand to double its capacity by next year. But the farmers who run the place are already thinking beyond that, to a new process of making ethanol from cellulose instead of corn. This would be much cheaper because cellulose is found in everything from prairie grass to agricultural waste to wood chips.
If that becomes economically viable, I think our plant could be converted over to that way of producing ethanol too.
Pine Lake isn't unique. From New Jersey to California, about 300 ethanol plants are in operation or on the drawing boards. By 2012, the government expects processors to make 7.5 billion gallons of ethanol a year. That's really only a drop in the American oil bucket, since the country uses 140 billion gallons of gasoline a year. But Professor Kamen at Berkeley says it's a good first step.
Well, let's cut to the bottom line. Is ethanol the best available way to reduce our importation of oil?
It is a good way. Ethanol provides a wonderful short-term option because we can use corn today to make it and have significant savings in terms of offsetting gasoline and modest savings on a greenhouse gas level. And the big plus is it's available today, so we could make this transition starting tomorrow if we wanted.
Oil industry executives, taking heat from Congress over their multi-billion-dollar record profits, favor a different approach. They want to spend billions finding new sources of oil, which is more expensive to produce, instead of switching over to E85. Besides, they say,
it's not the oil and gas companies who are going to make the investment in order to sell E85.
Red Kavanagh is the head of the American Petroleum Institute, the oil industry's trade association. He estimates it will cost up to $200,000 to bring E85 to each station. And the people who own the stations, he says, would have to foot the bill. But while oil companies own only a fraction of the nation's gasoline stations, they have a huge influence over what's sold at the rest of them and for how much.
It's my understanding that the petroleum industry in general says ethanol, fine, but not in favor of E85. Is that true?
No, that's not correct. The 6 largest refiners said that they support E85 in their facilities as long as the mixture arrives and meets the government specifications for that. But we must understand that the market is exceptionally limited.
Kavanagh says that's because only 5 million of the country's 133 million cars can use E85.
If all the focus is on E85, you're gambling on starting at a very small base, and you're going to have to go very quick to get big volumes.
Why shouldn't I think, well, this is just a way for the oil companies to slow or snuff out the growth of ethanol and other alternatives?
We think we've shown that we're strong supporters for ethanol where it's appropriate.
But what the oil industry considers appropriate is limiting ethanol to an additive and not moving quickly to something like E85.
What we don't want to do is overpromise to the American public what can be done with these alternative fuels and then underdeliver.
But some states, like California, are already moving to deliver E85 to more gas stations by helping pay the cost of adding the E85 pumps. Professor Kamen from Berkeley says the process would be a lot less expensive than the oil industry's estimate of $200,000 per station, and it wouldn't take that long.
The transition is pretty easy. It looks like it's $30,000 or $40,000 per gas station to change over and have an ethanol dedicated pumps.
Are we talking 3 years, 5 years, 20 years?
Well, I think it's less than that, actually. I would bet that we will have enough ethanol stations within 2 to 3 years' time at most. And the reason is that the transition is so easy that doing the retrofit to have ethanol pumps available can be done in a matter of weeks.
That's just what the farmers in Steamboat Rock, Iowa, like Larry Meintz, want to hear.
It's a win-win thing for the nation and for our local economy here to create jobs locally rather than sending the money overseas and sometimes to people that really don't like us very well.
The cattle drive is an enduring symbol of the American West, the image of tough cowboys pushing huge herds of cows across the open range is stamped in our imaginations. By the 21st century, most horseback cattle drives have been run off the range by suburban sprawl, government regulation, lower beef consumption, and the return of protected predators. But there's a group of stubborn men and women in Wyoming who every spring push thousands of cows along the same 70-mile route their ancestors pioneered well over a century ago. As we first reported in 2021, this throwback to the Old West is called the Green River Drift, and it's the longest-running cattle drive left in America. Just after dawn one Saturday in June of 2021, I'm trying to help Wyoming rancher Albert Summers and his team move hundreds of cows, most of them mothers with new calves, in a cloud of dust toward high green pastures where they'll graze all summer.
And if you feel inclined, Bill, you can whistle, you can yell.
I can do anything to move these.
This is like cowboys therapy. You get to voice everything out.
Come on, Indy.
I do the best I can.
Come on, cows. Move, cows.
But it's not quite as good as little Shad Swain, the son of Albert's ranching partner, Ty.
Shad is 5 years old?
He is.
Shad, if you can do this, I can do this, okay?
Shad got to do it with a sour apple lollipop in his mouth. All of us, with the help of some fearless herding dogs, move cattle over hills, across creeks, through shimmering groves of aspen, along what cowboys call driveways, and across highways north toward those distant mountains.
How long does it take you to get them to the summer feeding area?
So it takes about 13 days from when we start to when we get up there where we want to be. We travel up to about 60 to 70 miles. Hey, cow, hey, cow.
Albert Summers is one of 11 ranchers who work together to drive more than 7,000 head of cattle on the Green River Drift. Those 11 ranches all lie in Wyoming's Green River Valley, south of Jackson Hole. Here, the Wyoming Range is to the west, the Wind River Range is to the east. The valley between is part bone-dry high desert and verdant river drainage where Native Americans once hunted buffalo. Today, the Green River runs through Albert Summers' ranch.
And your family's been doing this how long?
My family's been doing this since about 1903.
Albert's neighbor, Jeannie Lockwood's family, has been at it even longer.
This was my granddad's ranch. He homesteaded this in 1889.
Her ranch is about 20 miles south of Albert Summers' place. We joined her on horseback before dawn the day she started moving her cattle north.
There's that sun. It's going to peek up over the hill.
Along the same path her family has trekked for 125 years.
So you're going to be doing this for the next 2 weeks?
Yes. Yeah.
Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Or 3 or 2:30.
Or 2:30.
Yeah.
Those early starts barely compare to what old-timers endured when cowboys stayed out under the stars all night and the sun all day until they got the herd to high pastures.
Well, I think we can go home. What do you think?
Today, they go home after each day's drive. The next morning, they trailer their horses back to where they'd left the cattle, round up those that have strayed, and move them out again before dawn. The old chuck wagon, it's been replaced by a cooler and the tailgate of a pickup truck.
But compared to what your grandfather did,
Our ancestors, yeah.
this is easy.
Yeah, we have it easy.
Only ranchers would call this easy. Driving cattle is hot, dusty, demanding, and they'll be lucky to make a $50 profit per cow when they finally send them to market. Jeannie's daughter, Haley, and son-in-law, France, help wrangle the herd. Her husband, Milford, shuttles the horse trailers. They all left regular jobs and moved back to the ranch several years ago after Jeannie's brother, who had been running the place, died in an accident.
It takes all of us to do it, it seems like. So
Jeannie was a librarian.
So what is it about this place that makes you give up regular, normal American jobs and come back here to do this really hard work?
Well, first of all, it was home to me. And it was hard work for my parents. And I know it was hard work for my grandparents. And I just couldn't see letting it go. Labor of love, it's called. Yeah.
Where's the emphasis, labor or love?
Love.
Love might sustain the Green River drift, but it was born in crisis.
The winter of 1889-90 is really what started the drift.
Clint Gilchrist is an historian who grew up in this valley and has written about that harsh winter.
And it killed off the vast majority of the cattle herds that were here because they weren't prepared for a bad winter. Nobody had prepared for a bad winter.
White settlers were not prepared. Native tribes, which the U.S. government drove off the land to make room for homesteaders, knew that winters in the Green River Valley could be merciless.
The Shoshone Indians and the Crow Indians were one of the dominant tribes in these areas, and they didn't winter here. They wintered over on the other side of the mountains where it was, less elevation.
After that brutal winter, ranchers realized they had to move their cattle out of the valley long enough to grow a crop of hay.
So while the cattle are up in the uplands, you're able to grow hay.
Right.
And that feeds them all winter long.
Right. And so that was the genesis of what we call the drift.
The drift, Albert Summers says, because when the first fall frost chills the mountains, the cows instinctively head for home.
Just on their own, turn around and start coming back.
Turn around and start. We open gates.
They drift back.
And they drift back. In the spring, we drive them. In the fall, they drift.
When the drift began 125 years ago, there were no regulations, no subdivisions, just wide open range.
Hey, 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 hey!
Now, ranchers drive their cattle to U.S. Forest Service land, the largest grazing allotment in the country. 127,000 acres of the Bridger-Teton National Forest. They pay the federal government $1.35 a month for every cow and her calf.
Murdoch! Summers! Price! Murdoch!
How much each rancher will owe is tallied at a place called the counting gate.
Summers! Summers!
It's Jamie Burgess's job to read brands or ear tags and call out which cows belong to which ranch.
Summers! Price! Price!
While his wife Rita adds up the totals. When the cows finally reach mountain pastures, they're handed off to range riders.
Bring them.
Like Brittany Heseltine, whose job is to watch over them all summer.
And you're up here by yourself?
Yes. Just me, my horses, my 3 dogs, and a cat.
How long altogether?
It'll be about 5 months.
Every day for those 5 months, Brittany is out at dawn to check on the 600 or so cattle in her care.
First thing in the morning, you come out on a rise, and especially in the fall, the elk are bugling and just talking to each other.
Brittany earned her degree in veterinary science in 2019. This was her 3rd summer as a range rider.
It's really hard work. What's the attraction? What's the draw?
Something about it speaks to my soul. I really can't describe what, but all winter long, I'm like, oh, a couple months more, and then I'll be up at home.
Her home for the summer was a small trailer in an isolated camp, off the grid. No running water, no cell service. At the start of that summer, 4 of the drift's 5 range riders were women.
You told us that you thought women made the best range riders. Why would that be?
They're hard workers. And I can't say that they're, the men aren't good, but the women don't go to town and as much as some of the men kind of have a tendency to.
Visit the tavern?
Yeah, they'll go on the other side of the mountain.
So what happened to the cowboys?
I don't know, maybe they're just not cut out for it.
There's beauty up here, and danger too. Since listed as endangered species, wolf and grizzly bear populations have exploded in these mountains. Brittany keeps track of the calves they kill.
If it was actually killed by a predator, then there will be bruising on the hide on the inside. And it's very obvious.
You know, like last year we lost 24 calves, didn't come home.
Now we lose between 10 and 15% of our calves.
It sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It would break us if it weren't for a compensation program by the Wyoming Game and Fish Department.
So you get paid for every animal you lose?
We do.
Predators aren't the only threat to these ranchers. A growing chorus of critics argue cattle shouldn't graze on public lands at all. Consumption of beef is down, and so is the number of ranches on the Drift. There were more than 20 in the early 1990s. Now it's down to 11. The Green River Drift is so iconic that the cattle drive has earned a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. These remaining ranchers are determined to see that it's not just relegated to history books.
So what does it mean to you to be doing what your father and your grandfather did on the same land?
That's hard to talk about. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Albert Summers has no children, so to preserve this land and its tradition, he's set up what's called a conservation easement. Preservationists have paid him to agree that his ranch will never be developed or subdivided, and to allow the public to use the land for recreation. That agreement will also apply to his partner, Ty Swain, as he takes over, and to his son, Shad, when and if he picks up the reins.
So with the conservation easement, this land will not change. It will stay the same.
It will stay the same. Well, no land stays the same, but this land will not be developed. And I will go to my grave peacefully with that knowledge, but just not tomorrow.
Many traditions have left their mark on this land. Native Americans were forced to give way to fur traders, pioneers, and homesteaders. Today, it's the cowboy way of life that is fighting to hold on.
Oh, yeah!
It's tied every year. I mean, we're down to the last dime at the end of the year.
It sounds like you're not in it for the money.
No, sir. No, we're not. You know, and if somebody says, you know, you're a rich rancher, only rich in the fact that we get to do what we do and we live where we live. And we get to see the sun come up over those mountains. That's the rich part of this job. It's not the money.
Jeannie Lockwood and Albert Summers are still driving their cattle on the Drift, but after 31 years in charge, Albert has handed that responsibility off. Brittany Hazeltine, the young woman we met up in the high country, is still in the saddle. And little Shad Swain, who we saw riding with a lollipop in his mouth, he's now 9 and pushing cows on the Drift nearly every day.
The idea that this country has become one big, bland, conformist culture, the United States of Generica, well, if you're in search of a counterpoint, hang out as we did in the marshy interior of southern Louisiana. You need no passport to enter Cajun country, but it's an exotic land like nowhere else, home to a cuisine, a language, a landscape, even a pacing all its own. And then there's the singular sound. Cajun music and its cousin from across the way, Zydeco, resists easy description. But it is intoxicatingly catchy, often sung in French, and as we first reported earlier this year, enjoying a most unlikely renaissance. The sun is out and living is easy on the bayous of Louisiana. The fish are jumping, those are carp, and the cypress trees grow high. On dry land, the music hangs in the humidity. In Eunice, Louisiana, the Savoie family has lived on this patch of land for 8 generations. Music is often a family inheritance down here, and you can think of the Savoies as the Von Trapp clan of Cajun country, Acadiana as it's known. Joel is a Grammy-winning producer and musician, often accompanied by his brother Wilson, also a Grammy winner. Their father Mark, an accordion maker by day, is a prominent musician in his own right, as is their mother Ann, who once recorded with Linda Ronstadt.
What defines the Cajun sound? Typically, Cajun music has Cajun accordion, fiddle, sung in Cajun French,
They play two-step and waltzes. It's got a very unique rhythm, very syncopated rhythm that you don't hear in a lot of other kinds of music. It's the syncopation that drives the music.
And it has a hauntingness about it, the music, and it's just got soul, you know?
These sounds are sourced from the unique blend of people that converged on Cajun country over the centuries.
Music is obviously born out of this swirl of different cultures. The accordion arrived with some part of the population. Fiddle arrived with different part of the population. The syncopation comes from people that we encountered here, the African Americans, the Creoles, the Spanish, things like that. It's also a social music. You know, anytime there's music, there's somebody hanging out, somebody cooking. These things just are part of life. It's always inclusive. Maybe you'll dance a few times, who knows?
As we saw, when the sun sets in Acadiana, the volume turns way up. This music is the soundtrack in dive bars, in nightclubs, in the old French salle de danse dance halls that stud this landscape. And while it's not topping Billboard charts, the music is experiencing a resurgence as young audiences two-step once again to those accordions, fiddles, and washboards.
You say Louisiana, the first thing that can come out of their mind is, how's New Orleans? I'm like, I don't know. I don't live in New Orleans. I live in Southwest Louisiana.
Totally different sound.
A totally different sound.
Chubby Carrier is a Grammy-winning accordionist from Church Point, Louisiana. He tours with his group, the Bayou Swamp Band. Chubby Zydeco is a relative of Cajun music, born out of the French-speaking Black Creole community.
One time, this couple came and goes, honey, you gotta come see this. That's a black gentleman with an accordion in his hand. I wonder if you play poker, honey.
Oh, polka.
Poker.
Oh, you had a surprise for
Oh,
him.
my goodness. And I seen that, and they came back. And when I seen them sitting there, I said, watch this.
It's time to dance with me tonight, y'all.
I started playing my songs, and she started looking over to her husband and going, wow, this is great. She's just doing this.
She thought she was coming for Lawrence Welk.
Something like that.
Jordan Thibodeau is the frontman of the touring band Les Roudeurs.
It's just the sounds of our community. And I think that just buries into your heart when you're little.
And it's not some hipster, ironic thing.
No.
It's
Most of the people that be at these kind of dances are as far removed from a hipster as you could possibly imagine.
Jordan is Cajun music's equivalent of a rock star. And through his music, he's become something of a global ambassador for Cajun country and its way of life. You have a saying, you say a lot, that's in some of your song lyrics. Mm-hmm. You want to tell us what it is?
Tu vis ta culture ou tu tues ta culture, il n'y a pas de milieu. It means you either live your culture or you kill your culture. There's no in between.
What do you mean?
You see this vanishing of cultures, of dialects, of everything to just create this one generic human, you know? And it's really sad to me. So I'm gonna get up every day and I'm gonna live my culture today. I think it's every individual's responsibility to maintain who they are as a people.
Time was, Louisiana French could be heard on every street corner, both in Cajun and Creole communities. Jordan learned French from his grandmother. But today, the language is dwindling as the march of Americanization proceeds.
Imagine still being home and saying, oh, I miss home. It's a very hard feeling to convey.
I wonder if the language is diminishing, the Cajun music becomes that much more important as this transmitter of culture.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. There are countless kids who are learning the language just from the music.
The Cajun story starts in Nova Scotia, where this French-speaking people led a peaceful life until they didn't. In the middle of the 1700s, the conquering British kicked out the Acadians, shortened to Cajuns. Expelled, they found an improbable home amid the backwaters of French Louisiana. from the craggy North Atlantic to the delta and bayous of the Atchafalaya Basin, the largest swamp in North America. Jordan gave us a tour of the land that shaped his Cajun ancestors. They adapted to survive and then thrive in this new and sometimes hostile environment.
Did I hear right? You learned to swim in this water?
Yeah. Oh,
What
yeah.
happens?
My mama, they would take the kids, they'd put us some life jacket and throw us out the boat to go swim so they could fish in peace, you know? And she'd make the turn if you'd see an alligator. Mama, they got an alligator. You can see him? Yes, ma'am. Then it's fine. If you can't see him no more, let me know.
The Cajuns didn't come with much, but they did bring their old French melodies.
We sing a lot fishing. When we sit and fish, me and my little girl, my youngest, she likes to sit and sing. So while we're fishing, she sings to the fish to get them to come.
Long as he brought up fish, well, there's an unwritten rule in Cajun country. You can't have the music without the food. Joel Savoy and his family invited us into their kitchen.
We're cooking some shrimp étouffée. Étouffée is a French word that means smothered. So we smothered them.
Where'd you learn? From your
From my
folks?
father, yeah. A lot of people say, what's the recipe? I said, I don't know what the recipe is.
New York, you can go into a Michelin star restaurant and they've got étouffée and gumbo.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
They don't know what they're doing. I proposed a toast to my grandmother who lived in this house, and with her lack of gentility, she would always say, arrête de baduler, assis-toi, puis allons parler. Quit your babbling, sit down, and let's stuff ourselves.
Here.
Cheers. Cheers.
The music, the food, the drink, the bon ton, the good times, these traditions braid all the communities here, but with slight twists.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Chubby Carrier's father and grandfather were sharecroppers who played music at night. He showed us the difference between the blues-heavy Zydeco he grew up with and the more country-infused Cajun sound.
So I took one of my grandfather's songs. Now you see, I did all my Zydeco. That's a Zydeco song. Now watch your waltz. Take it to the Cajun. You hear that? Then now take that same song and then speed it up. It's gonna turn into a Zydeco song. Whoa, all in one, brother.
Though entwined musically for decades, the black Zydeco and the white Cajun scenes couldn't mingle much in the Jim Crow Deep South. We first met Chubby at La Poussière, The Dust, a dance hall in the town of Breaux Bridge. He remembers when black bands and patrons weren't allowed in.
I wonder if you thought about what your dad and your grandpa would have been thinking watching you play this venue where they wouldn't have been playing.
I mean, we can't even step in that club. Like, Daddy and my grandfather, I want to say this. They fought the fight for us, man. Daddy and Granddaddy is in heaven looking down going, my son is playing at a white venue that I never thought in a million years that I would ever see. But how good it is, how sweet it is, huh?
Today, the Cajun and Zydeco crowd overlap like never before. The music has found new audiences with new sensibilities.
You got the doo-doo-pop, doo-doo-pop, it feels like a train moving, and that's why.
Like virtually all the musicians we interviewed, Little Nate Williams has seen a surge in popularity. Last year, his streaming audience jumped by, get this, more than 3,000%.
How do you describe your style of Zydeco? It's not traditional, is it?
Very much not traditional, man. It's a fusion. That's how I think of it. Keyboards, synthesizers, a lot of R&B, a lot of R&B.
Nate learned to play from his father, also a renowned Zydeco musician. And he's found pushing musical boundaries is not always frictionless.
What's Dad say about this?
My dad has always been encouraging. But I could see his face sometimes, you know. We'll sit down in the studio, he'll look at me and listening to my stuff. Can we put some more accordion in there? Can we put some more French in there? Can we put this in there? But at the end of the day, you know, we come to some compromising, understanding that this is you, this is me.
And the music has struck a chord beyond Louisiana. Jordan's band tours across the country and internationally. we met Jordan, Joelle, and Wilson after they'd played a packed show in the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn, of all places. The band, like us, ponders what precisely is fueling this interest outside Louisiana.
They don't speak French. They're not getting the lyrics. What are they connecting to?
I wonder that all the time.
I really just believe it's the emotion. If we playing and I'm happy, we cut up and you can see and feel that good time, you're gonna feel that good time. Same thing, if the song's horribly sad, maybe it makes you feel a little sadness inside of you and you connect on that emotional level.
Emotional connection to a sound that, like the accordion itself, can contract and expand. Old melodies in a new era.
True music, it's emotive. You're gonna feel it, and that's sure. Everybody wants to feel something.
More than 13 million Americans are out of work, if you factor in those considered underemployed. That's almost 25 million men and women in this country, somewhere on the road to either getting by financially or suffering. We spent time with people who are finding a way to support their families by asking their children to work beside them. Farming is the one job in America where kids as young as 12 are welcomed, and for their parents, children in the fields are needed.
The Texas Plains, 5:30 a.m.
Morning.
Carlos Caceres gets his two sons ready for the long day ahead. They've come 350 miles from their home in Eagle Pass, Texas, to weed the cotton fields south of Lubbock. Cody is 13, Carlos Jr., 17.
What happens if it rains?
We don't work. It's a day loss, you know, because we don't get paid unless we're out here. If it rains, no pay. No work, no pay.
In the summer, the boys work alongside their father, work he did when he was their age. All three earn $7.25 an hour, the minimum wage.
How many years have you been doing this?
This is my fourth year.
Fourth year?
Yeah. It's hard for the kids, but, you know.
Hard how?
It's long, 10 hours for them to work, out in the sun. It's hot, and getting up every morning at 5:30 in the morning just to go to work.
What were your dreams when you were your son's age, when you were 13, 17 years old?
Be a truck driver. My dad was a truck driver. I mean, he had his own truck, and that's what I wanted to do, have my own trucks.
It's a dream that came true for Caceres. Born and raised in Texas, he supported his family for 15 years as an independent truck driver. He bought his own home. But when the economy went bad and trucking became less profitable, he went back to the fields.
I got to do something, and that's the only thing I'm qualified for, because that's what I've done all my life.
Pick fruit.
Yeah.
Pick vegetables.
Yeah.
The recession put the Caceres family back in what's called the migrant stream, the yearly flow of farm workers from Texas, Florida, and California moving north with the harvest. It's the life his parents and grandparents had before him. Now Carlos is with his siblings and their kids. Sunday is the one day of the week when these children can be children.
And then there's Monday through Saturday, right? What happens then?
Work. Every day.
Every day? How many hours do you work every day?
10.
10 hours a day? How old are you?
15.
15. And you work 10 hours a day too?
Yeah.
You work 10 hours a day. And how old are you?
13.
13 years old. Do you like this work?
No.
Why not?
Because it's always hot.
Armando is 12.
Why do you do this kind of work?
To help my parents, to buy us clothes and school supplies.
So the school year, they can be boys.
Yeah.
But in the summertime?
They become men, like me, work out here in the fields.
Together, he says, they can earn $10,000 to $12,000 in a good summer. That's about as much as he makes driving a truck the rest of the year.
How important is it to your family that you guys work?
I say it's very important, so we can help them out, pay the bills and everything.
And they're helping in the one place that younger kids can, the farm. The minimum age for most industries in America is 16. But in agriculture, children as young as 12 can be hired to do farm work. Outside of school, they can work unlimited hours.
It's hard, and it breaks my heart for them to be, for me to have them out here like that.
For those who would say that 13-year-old boys and 12-year-old boys shouldn't have to do this kind of work,
then what would I do? Where would I live? What would I give my kids? What would they wear? What would they eat?
You love farming.
Yeah, I love farming. It's a noble act if you do it right.
Like Carlos Caceres, Jeff Darnell, a grower in North Carolina, is also under financial strain.
Americans want their fruit and vegetables inexpensive.
As cheap as that they can, and they want the best.
Small farmers like Darnell have not been spared in this economy.
Hello? Come on.
During our visit, he took a phone call from his bookkeeper.
You got me worried. She intends to foreclose.
Behind on his mortgage, Darnell could lose the family farm. He says it's one more reason why he needs abundant, cheap labor to pick his tomato crop.
If I'm going to eat constantly fresh fruit and vegetables, I need to realize there are people that have got to produce that stuff, and there are people that are having to pick it, that are not on the high side of society. They're not living in the Hamptons. But if I don't have them people, you won't have that stuff here.
Darnell hires about 50 farm workers at the peak of the harvest. Most come from Mexico and Central America, like this 16-year-old. She's been working in the field since she was 13.
In your opinion, should a 12-year-old child be doing this kind of work? 12, 13, 14-year-old child?
A 14-year-old child, a 12-year, I mean, if they're out here helping me move an irrigation pipe, I don't see anything wrong with it.
But picking tomatoes, picking strawberries.
I picked when I was 12, worked for $1 an hour. It was hard, but it didn't hurt me. It's not gonna hurt your kids to work. Work's gonna help them down the road.
Norma Flores Lopez isn't so sure of that. She works for the Association of Farm Worker Opportunity Programs. It provides training and education to farm workers nationally. She'd like to see children out of the fields through changes in the law.
We still believe in the value of kids growing up and learning how to be able to earn money. But we feel that at the age of 12 is really, really young. The same way we feel at the age of 12 is really young in any of the other industries.
A century ago, child labor in the U.S. was commonplace, from sweatshops and factories to mines. The Fair Labor Standards Act was passed in 1938. It took children under 16 out of most workplaces for their safety and welfare. The one exception was agriculture. Back then, most farms were small family operations, and child labor was considered necessary. Today, the number of children legally working on farms is only guessed at. The U.S. Department of Labor says it might be as high as 155,000.
We don't advocate young children working in sweatshop conditions, whether it's a factory or the farm.
Frank Gasparini is Executive Vice President of the National Council of Agricultural Employers. It's a Washington lobby that represents fruit and vegetable growers.
Why is it still necessary to have children working on farms at all?
In terms of productivity, it probably isn't. In terms of opportunities for the children, I think it is still very valuable. There are a lot of good, safe jobs for 12 and 13-year-olds that give them an opportunity to have early work experience, to earn some money, and sometimes that's very important for their families.
It was important to Norma Flores Lopez and her family. She started working in cornfields at the age of 12.
This was in the middle of July, and you're out there 10 to 12 hours. I would work close to 80 hours a week during the peak of the season, and we would work probably about 3 weeks straight without any days off.
So for you, there was nothing romantic about working in the fields as a child?
There wasn't. I mean, you make best of what you got out there and make it as enjoyable as you possibly can, but the truth is it's hard work. It's hard, grueling work for very little pay.
Health insurance?
Unheard of.
Overtime?
doesn't happen.
Any kind of benefits?
Absolutely not.
After enduring the heat and hard work, Caceres' sons, Cody and Carlos Jr., end their day here, a migrant camp.
They do need a little work. The wall, see?
The walls move, the roof leaks, and they sleep 3 to a room. They do it not because they want to, and not just because they have to. They do it to help their father. And they do it with a dignity that belies their age.
It's like a teenager's right to kind of gripe about life and be dissatisfied with the things they have to do. But you guys seem okay with it.
I really don't complain because I work for what I get and I see how hard it is to get what you actually want. So I really don't complain about anything. I know if we can't have something, but it's okay.
You're okay with it?
Yeah.
Caceres says most of his weekly paycheck goes to cover food and rent. This place costs $50 a week. The family's livelihood depends on what the boys earn.
Because without them, you wouldn't make any money.
No, because it would all go here. It's like if I would leave them over there back home, what money would I send them?
On this day, their earnings were cut short due to rain.
Potentially, how much money could you lose today?
Oh, about $40 a piece.
Can you make that money up at some point?
See, well, yeah, but I would have to work on Sundays. And that's what the day that I like to, give this, the day off to my kids.
Cody, Carlos Jr., and their cousins are the 4th generation in their family to work the farm fields of America. Their parents don't want there to be a 5th.
That's the reason they bring us here, is to see how hard it is. It's better just finish college, they tell us. Be easier.
Get an education.
Yeah. But getting that education can be a struggle. Government studies show that young farm workers drop out of school at 4 times the national average. And the boys face not only statistics, but a tough economy. Despite the odds and the obstacles, they still believe.
What do you dream of? What do you want to do when you finish school?
I want to be a vet.
A veterinarian. How about you, man?
A football player or a lawyer?
A football player or a lawyer? Okay. So you guys really do believe you're going to college?
Yes. Yeah.
That you're not going to do this kind of work?
No, I'm sure.
So you're going to break that cycle?
Yes, we are.
Yeah?
New generation.
Sorry?
Make a new generation.
You believe in hard work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And it'll pay one day. When I see my kids, if they go to college and become something, that's when that'll be my reward.
There are more than 75,000 wild horses roaming public land in the West. Wild horses are the descendants of domesticated horses, the first brought here by Spanish explorers 500 years ago. By 1971, their numbers were dwindling, and Congress stepped in, passing a law to protect this romantic fragment of our history. It worked almost too well. Today, federal land managers say the number of wild horses is nearly 3 times what it should be, and left unchecked, their population can double every 5 years. As Sharon Alfonsi first reported in November, there's a program in Wyoming designed to rein in the wild horses and an unlikely group of men.
It's hard to imagine anything surviving on this stretch of badlands in northern Wyoming. Sagebrush blankets the high desert all the way to the Rocky Mountains. But in this empty quarter of the cowboy state is a thundering herd of Mustangs. Untouched, wild, and breathtakingly beautiful. But wild horses can also wreck the rangelands they roam. Government land managers say in the West, wild horses are competing with cattle and wildlife for increasingly scarce water and food, and their overpopulation often further strains the environment. So the Federal Bureau of Land Management regularly rounds up wild horses, mainly by using small helicopters to locate, capture, and truck them off to corrals or enclosed pastures like this one. A horse can live for about 20 years, and most of these horses will remain here until they die. The Wind River Wild Horse Sanctuary outside Lander, Wyoming, is run by Jess Oldham and his family.
Talk about the horses that are here. For most of them, this is it, right?
Yes, ma'am. We have the 225 long-term residents and
Long-term residents.
long-term residents.
Sounds like a nursing home.
That's what I call them. I mean,
Yeah.
they're part of our family, and they're going to be here long-term.
And there they go.
Yes, ma'am.
The 1,400-acre facility is on an Indian reservation. The Oldhams are one of dozens of contractors paid by the government to feed and care for Mustangs after they've been removed from the wild. Activists want the horses to remain free.
Why not just let the wild horses be wild and run?
The harsh reality is ecosystems are a delicate balance of each species coexisting together in the environment. There is a limited amount of resources in grass, in water, and the wild horses are a very dominant species. They're smart, they're fast, they eat a lot of food, and they need to be properly managed.
Keeping count of all those horses is Holly Waddell, the division chief of the program that oversees wild horses for the Bureau of Land Management.
How many wild horses is the government now caring for?
So we are currently caring for over 57,000 wild horses.
And caring for them is not inexpensive.
No. The cost of care for wild horses in our off-range corrals and pastures was 2/3 of our budget last year, which was a little over $70 million.
$70 million to care for the wild horses.
Taxpayer dollars.
To relieve some of the burden on taxpayers, in 2021, the Bureau says 3,742 Mustangs came off the government rolls through an incentive program that pays individuals $1,000 to adopt one. Wild horses attract relatively few takers, but these horses did, picked for their youth, balance, and temperament that are said to be trained in, of all places, prisons like the Wyoming Honor Farm. It's a 640-acre compound of tidy buildings, manicured lawns, cattle, and enough hay to feed them. It may look like a dude ranch, but this is a state-run minimum security prison with felons working the land and the horses. There are no towers or armed guards. A simple 4-foot cattle fence marks the perimeter between the prison and the town of Riverton, Wyoming.
You know, Wyoming has a tendency to do things a little differently because we're a smaller state, and I think it's one of those things, until you see it, you can't actually believe it yourself.
Curtis Moffett has spent his entire career in corrections. He's the warden on the farm, and about the only one here who doesn't wear cowboy boots to work.
The thing that struck me, when you drive up, you see the 4-foot-high cattle fence. What's to stop an inmate from making a run for it or riding off into the sunset?
Realistically, himself. Most of these guys are at the end of their sentence, so most of them don't want to destroy that or, you know, catch another number, do another 5 years or so. It's on them to make sure that they're going to do things the right way.
Most inmates have earned the right to be here, transferred for good behavior from more restrictive state prisons. And each day, about 30 inmates report to work in a maze of chutes and pens with wild horses weighing up to 1,000 pounds. Their job is to transform these Mustangs from wild burdens of the state into riding horses that can fetch thousands at auction.
These guys are here to do their time, but it's really about changing their life, put a change in them in a positive direction.
Travis Shootman is the cowboy in charge. He's the manager of the farm.
Come on, beauty queens.
Shootman spent his life teaching the art of training horses. It shows in a stride kinked by old fractures.
Have you ever had a halter on this horse, Mr. Sukor?
Never. And a voice both firm and calm, as much for the inmates as the horses.
Do the rope-a-dope and throw the rope into your hand. Do not get kicked.
It takes time to train a wild horse, but Shootman says there's nothing special about how it starts.
You walk them in there like you just kind of rip off the Band-Aid and a human goes in there. Don't chase him. Whoa.
What's the next step?
Then you teach them to yield the pressure, so you stop the forward movement. Teach them that if they move forward towards you, the pressure goes away. And then from there, you get to where you can touch them, you get to where you can pet them, introduce a halter, get them halter broke, and then you have that trust. Like, they understand if they give up their right of flight to stay with you, there's some trust there.
Are you talking about the horses or the
The
inmates?
horses.
Keep going, hey.
We are in the people business, and helping the horses is extra, but the guys really learn a lot of life lessons from the horses. They learn to try, they learn to not lie to themselves about their feelings. They learn to control whether it's the highest of high emotions or the lowest of low emotions.
No one here breaks a horse. The method used at the farm is called gentling. Force is replaced by patience, persistence, and an even keel.
Good job. Right here.
In any pen on any day, you can see it play out. A ballet in dusty boots. A delicate dance of inches, repeated 100 times over, days in the making for this, the first human touch. Next door, a Mustang in full gallop. A runaway train yields and stops on command.
There you go. You got a good win.
We're watching all these things step by step by step, but this doesn't happen overnight.
No, sometimes it'll take 4 weeks, sometimes it'll take 4 months to do these steps, and a wild horse takes a little bit longer sometimes.
Michael Davis has been riding horses his whole life. He's serving 15 to 20 years for voluntary manslaughter. He's eligible for parole in a little over 3 years.
If you're mad, if you're scared, a horse knows before you ever even touch him. You know, that how they know, I don't. You have to control your feelings considerably with the horse because it is so easy for them to pick up on your mood.
So you're good at controlling your feelings with the horse, but with people, how are you doing?
Not real great.
We're still working
I have
on
my
that.
moments. I'm still working on it, but we're getting better.
Davis is an old cowboy and one of only a few inmates here who can handle this. This horse has never had a man on its back until now.
Hey! Whoa!
A remarkable skill that can't be acquired without a few scars.
I've got broken ankle, a separated shoulder, a broken collarbone, ditches in my head, broken hand, fingers, lots of fingers.
What's the program taught you? What's it meant to you?
A little piece of freedom. I mean, I'm wearing boots and jeans instead of hospital scrubs. And I mean, it's hot out here, but it's a good hot. It's as close to being outside as I can get until I get outside.
Out here, it's easy to forget this is a prison with 300 inmates under the watchful eye of Warden Moffett.
People at home will say, like, these guys are felons. They've done terrible things, committed awful crimes, ruined families. Why should they be allowed to be out here, to be trusted, to be working with these horses?
We don't provide the sentence to them. We don't provide the punishment for them. The judge decided all that. Our job is to supervise them while they're in here. And hopefully return them to society where they're responsible individuals, where they can be law-abiding citizens. I think this program goes a long way to do that. And I want to make sure they get out and we can believe that they're going to be successful and they aren't going to reoffend.
You want to make sure, right, that the horses aren't returned and the inmates don't return.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Right.
In Wyoming, the recidivism rate is below 30%. And if you're wondering about that 4-foot cattle fence, well, the warden says in the last 22 years, fewer than 10 inmates have made a run for it.
Come back down to a walk.
Staying on the right side of the fence is not lost on Peyton Sucor, an inmate serving 7 to 10 years for aggravated assault. He transferred from a maximum security prison a year ago and came here with no experience working with horses.
What's it like to step into a pen the first time with a wild 800-pound horse?
Adrenaline, heart-pounding excitement. But I was excited to do it because once you get a horse to go the direction you want and then come and join up to you and you turn around and he's right there and it's like, wow, this animal, this connection, this feeling, I can't explain it.
What has this taught you about yourself?
It's taught me responsibility. It's taught me what I want to do for a career when I get out of here. And this makes you look at life a whole different way. Whoa.
And Sucor's patience and feel are paying off. At auction, a gelding like this one could sell for thousands, but it's not without a little heartache.
Is it hard to see them go?
It is, but at the same time, we're not doing this just for us. We're doing it for them too. It's a second chance for them as well.
Have you ridden him without a tie down?
Yes, ma'am.
This September, the Honor Farm held its second auction of the year. Hundreds of buyers came to the prison from all over the country to inspect these horses and query their trainers, a little like kicking the tires on a car lot.
Hit $500 now, make it 5, make it 5, anybody put them at 5.
Then, each Mustang takes the main stage, trotting and loping, sold to the highest bidder.
Sold out, $2,500. All right, here we go. Lock
In all, 34 horses fetched $65,000 for the Bureau of Land Management, an achievement almost as good as the look on the inmates' faces. But remember Michael Davis, the old cowboy who couldn't be bucked? We noticed he wasn't at the auction. The warden told us he was suspended for not getting along with others. Gentling a horse and rehabilitating the man don't always happen on the same clock. By high noon, every Mustang had a new home. And for this wild bunch, gentling has its virtues.
I think I know the answer to this. If you were a betting man, would you bet a psychologist is quicker to change the behavior of a man, a doctor, a therapist, or a horse?
I think a horse, 100%. And that's just purely Travis Shootman talking, but the horses are a major role in what betters those men. They can teach you life lessons every step of every way. Teach you that you got something in you that you didn't think you had. They can teach you that it's okay to be afraid, but it can still be done. Nothing's impossible. There's so many life lessons.
When Lewis and Clark first encountered grizzly bears, there may have been 100,000 of them in the American West, from what is now Canada all the way down to Mexico. Grizzlies are among the most fearsome predators on the planet, so for the next 150 years, they were systematically exterminated by settlers, ranchers, and farmers who saw them as a threat to their lives and livelihoods. By the 1960s, there were just a few hundred left in the lower 48 states. In 1975, grizzly bears were among the first animals to be protected under the Endangered Species Act. And as we reported last year, what's happened since, especially in the state of Montana, is a story both of conservation and conflict. Ever been face-to-face with a grizzly? Neither had we.
Ready?
Yeah. In the Swan Mountains of northwestern Montana, we are carrying bear spray and following state bear specialist Eric Wenham and his colleague Milan Vinks deep into the woods.
Hey!
Wenham is checking one of several traps called snares.
Oh, there's a bear.
That he has baited with beaver meat.
Grizzly bear.
You hear that?
The closer we get, the more agitated she's going to become, so we'll kind of be quiet, get a good weight assessment on her, and then we'll just drift right back out. Okay?
I'm with you.
All right. You're okay. You're all right. You're okay. You're okay. You're all right. You're all right.
After the wire snare around its wrist stops the first charge at Wenham, the grizzly makes another effort to get at our cameraman, Don Lee.
You're all right. All right, we'll drift out.
Do you have an estimate of how big that bear is? How much do you think she weighs?
I think it's right around 300 pounds.
That's mid-size for a grizzly. They can weigh as much as 1,000 pounds and stand 9 feet tall on their hind legs.
We're going to mix a little bit of metatomidine in there.
Wenham and Vinks mix a cocktail of veterinary sedatives and load them into a dart gun.
You have the dart, I have the bear spray.
There we go, we are set.
Vinks carries a shotgun loaded with lethal ammunition just in case. Wenham insists that neither the tranquilizer nor the snare do any lasting harm, and that he needs both as part of a project to attach radio collars to grizzlies and track their population's recovery.
To me, having a grizzly bear population means that the ecosystem is intact.
Hillary Cooley is the wildlife biologist in charge of grizzly bear recovery for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Grizzly bears were listed in 1975 as a threatened species in the lower 48 states.
I thought their survival was in jeopardy.
Yeah, their range had been reduced by about 98%.
Two places grizzlies hadn't been wiped out were Glacier and Yellowstone National Parks, where a few hundred were protected from eradication. So starting 45 years ago, the recovery effort focused on millions of acres around those two parks.
They've probably more than tripled their numbers, and their range now is more than double what it was at the time of listing.
Since listed as an endangered species back in 1975, the grizzly bear population in this region has made a remarkable comeback, a true success story. But at the same time, another population has also been growing around here, the human population, with houses and subdivisions built right next to the wilderness. And that's often where the trouble starts. Montana's human population has grown by 250,000 since grizzlies were protected in 1975. Most of those people live on valley floors or in foothills not far from bear country.
When you can look at the telemetry from their collars, you realize that at night, this valley belongs to bears. A bear has walked, I've seen the telemetry, through the spot where you and I are sitting right now, and we are within 100 feet of my house.
Bryce Andrews is a rancher, author, and field director for a nonprofit called People and Carnivores, which tries to minimize human-bear conflict. He's seen all the videos of grizzlies going through trash cans, raiding chicken coops, and backyard bird feeders, even the fridge. They are true omnivores and really hungry from the moment they emerge from hibernation each spring.
Anything with caloric value, a bear will turn it into what they need to survive.
So they will eat any and everything.
Any and everything. They'll come for bird seed. They'll come for the residue on a barbecue.
It's their appetites that get them into trouble with humans.
Absolutely.
The greatest trouble comes when grizzlies go after livestock or crops that ranchers and farmers count on for their livelihoods.
Bears can be really hard to live with. They kill livestock. There are producers who have 20, 30 cows a year killed by grizzly bears. And so for
Sounds like a
those
lot.
folks, it's a lot. It's a big impact.
The bears probably knocked down between 20 and 25% of my corn that I couldn't harvest every year.
Greg Schock farms in Montana's Mission Valley. He says grizzlies live in the woods about a mile from his home.
We had 18 several years in a row in our cornfield, and nobody believed that I had that many until they put cameras up and actually had footage of them.
18 in your cornfield?
In a 100-acre cornfield, yeah.
With so many grizzlies around, now nearly 2,000, the federal government has considered removing some populations from the endangered species list. So far, court challenges from environmental groups and Native Americans have prevented that. You think it is possible to coexist?
I think we have to. If we don't coexist, who's leaving? The bears aren't leaving and we aren't leaving, so.
So Bryce Andrews' organization does things like install high-voltage electric fences around fields like this 30-acre melon farm. Grizzlies are smart enough to test the fences and sometimes even get around them.
We've got an electrified gate here, which is off right now.
Andrews has an electric fence around his backyard chicken coop, but not all of his neighbors do.
Generally, when there are unprotected chickens in grizzly habitat, it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong.
The grizzly bear will win.
They'll win, and see, they have these phenomenal noses. They smell everything.
Including neighborhood trash cans. If a grizzly develops a taste for garbage, gets accustomed to being near people, and then teaches those bad habits to her cubs, it can prove fatal. Bears that get into such trouble are often trapped by state bear managers. At first, they're relocated to remote regions and released. But if they keep coming back, federal official Hillary Cooley may need to authorize killing them.
Ultimately, that's my decision.
What's that like?
It's the worst part of the job. But it's necessary.
Why necessary?
If we think it's a threat to human safety, for example, a food-conditioned bear, bears can kill people, and it's something we don't mess with. If there's a threat to human safety, we remove it right off the bat.
And remove, you
euthanize.
Euthanize. She had to authorize the killing of nearly 50 grizzlies in 2019.
Hey.
The grizzly bear we saw Eric Wenham tranquilize in the Swan Mountains may never have seen a human being before, let alone gotten into trouble.
Do you know, is it a male or a female?
I don't yet.
How long will this grizzly be out?
About an hour.
About an hour?
In 20 minutes.
It's a male. Oh, it's a male. Why were you hoping for a female?
We want a radio collar females. Females drive the system. They really do. One, two, three.
Will you collar him?
We collar some males. We're not going to collar this guy, though.
Boy, look at those claws.
The forest becomes a field hospital as they attach monitors and even an oxygen bottle to the grizzly.
So he's at 88% oxygen. I like it when it's 90, 95, so I want to get him up.
We measured every part of the bear.
5 1/4, okay.
Blood is drawn, tufts of hair pulled for DNA analysis.
I'm going to call him a 5-year-old bear, okay? So you can see these are his incisors, and if you run your fingernail over the top, you can still feel some cusping. So go ahead.
Tell me I can do this.
You
Stick
can-
my hand in a grizzly bear's
I'm
mouth.
telling you can do that.
Oh, yeah. How about that?
Less than an hour after being darted, a bit ahead of schedule,
He's moving a little bit here.
the grizzly starts to stir.
So he's starting to wake up?
Everybody, we're ready to go. Why don't you guys head on out? Everybody go.
We didn't need to be told again. As we hustled out, Wenham removed the hood from the bear's head and hurried out himself.
Your first question will be, does that happen often?
When he was sniffing up, that
When he's
was time
lifting
to
his
go.
head, it's time to go.
It's time to go.
We had about as safe an encounter with a grizzly bear as is possible to have. But with more people going deep into bear country to hike or bike or camp or hunt, there are several decidedly unsafe encounters every year.
I didn't really get a warning, and all of a sudden there's a grizzly bear running at me. And in about probably less than a second, it was on me.
Anders Brosty was hunting for deer and elk with a friend in the wilderness north of his Montana home on November 11th, 2018, when he stumbled upon a grizzly who'd been dozing in the snow.
It bit my arm here, kind of thrashed it around, and then bit my leg here, started pulling on me and kind of tossing me around. And then it just dropped my foot and ran off.
Do you have any idea why he didn't just finish you off or drag you off?
Nope.
Brosty's hunting partner, Dan, reached him within a minute or two. Luckily, they had a cell phone signal to call 911. State bear specialist Eric Wenham was one of the first responders on the scene, and he snapped a photo of a very large paw print in the snow.
They had to chopper you out.
2 choppers.
How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for 6 days. In that 6 days, I had 3 different surgeries. My arm was broken, my thumb was broken, and my hand was dislocated. My foot was basically held to my ankle with soft tissue.
This is the grizzly that attacked Anders Brosty in a photo taken 4 years earlier when state bear managers trapped and released him. DNA samples proved the match.
So the bear that attacked you is still out there.
Yep.
Does that bother you? You okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I was intruding. So to me, the bear's response was not any more inappropriate than what somebody else's response would be if I trespassed into their home.
Brosty, who is the co-founder of a company that makes mountain bikes, is back on his after many months of tough rehab. And he says he and his friend Dan plan to go hunting again this November 11th, the anniversary of the attack.
I think it's part of what makes Montana wild. If we didn't have grizzly bears, it'd be a little less wild. They're a part of our ecosystem. They play a role in everything that's going on around here. I think that's kind of cool. I'd prefer not to see one that close again, though.
It's safe to say that wolves have an image problem. Since ancient times, they've been portrayed in fables and legends and the Bible as fearsome, voracious predators. The story of the big bad wolf may be the most memorable and frightening of all the fairy tales told by the Brothers Grimm. That grim reputation actually produced a very real result in America in the early 20th century. Wolves were wiped off the landscape, trapped, poisoned, and hunted until there was not a single one left in the American West. When the National Park Service decided to bring wolves back to Yellowstone Park in the 1990s, it followed a bitter debate between wildlife groups who wanted them restored and ranchers who most definitely didn't. 2 decades later, the wolves of Yellowstone still stir strong emotions, but they've also had an impact that almost no one saw coming. In the dead of winter, Yellowstone Park is a beautiful but forbidding place. Howling wind, sub-zero temperatures, 6 feet of snow. Just finding enough food to survive is a profound struggle for every animal. Waterfowl, bison, elk, foxes, they all have to work for every morsel. Yellowstone was the world's first national park, founded in 1872, and it remains one of the most visited. Millions of people come here every summer, but they used to pretty much leave it to the wildlife in the winter, until the wolves came back.
Oh, they're behind the tree.
Now, reports of a wolf sighting can produce a traffic jam along the 150-mile stretch of road the Park Service keeps open in the winter.
Oh, we got a wolf bus moving.
Visitors with spotting scopes gather in absolutely frigid weather for a momentary, long-distance view.
Bill, these folks came from Germany to see wolves.
How about that? Doug Smith runs the Yellowstone Wolf Research Program for the Park Service.
And no one predicted this would happen. Actually, you know,
the appeal of coming in to see the wolves?
Yes, and it truly has been amazing, and hundreds of thousands of people a year, we estimate, come here just to see wolves.
Wolf tourism pumps $35 million a year into the local economy, much of it spent in the winter, which is prime wolf watching time.
We've seen wolves all 3 days that we've been out.
Glenn Mai is a retired FBI agent from Arlington, Virginia. Kathy Lombard is a retired cop from New Hampshire. They both paid an outfitter thousands of dollars to take them wolf watching. So what is it about wolves that bring you all the way out here from New Hampshire to sit out here and just hope for the chance to see them?
They've been able to bring wolves back into Yellowstone, and they've thrived. So that's just an awesome thing to see.
It was January 12, 1995, when the first gray wolves captured in Canada were carried into Yellowstone Park. It drew both national attention and fierce opposition. So much that armed guards were posted to protect those wolves. So the first wolves released into Yellowstone Park were released right back here in this thicket.
Yes, so a total of 41 over 3 years.
How many are in the park now?
We've got 96 in 10 packs, and it's been roughly 100 wolves the last 10 years. Very stable.
Those 10 packs of about 10 wolves each are without a doubt the most closely observed and studied wolves on Earth.
Our goal is to keep touch with each pack. That's our goal.
They do that by trying to attach radio collars to at least 2 wolves in each of the park's packs.
So you fly out in the airplane, find wolves in the open. That airplane radios a waiting helicopter on the ground. That helicopter flies out with a gunner in the back seat.
That gunner is almost always Smith himself.
Loaded, okay. And you fly up alongside that wolf, and you shoot a tranquilizing dart into it.
Doug's in.
5 minutes, it goes down. We process the wolves. We take blood. We measure them. We look at their health, and we attach a radio collar. And then we follow them for their life, hopefully.
That life, by the way, typically lasts about 5 years. Yellowstone wolves are fierce and territorial. The leading cause of death is attacks from other wolves.
And their look is uncontrollable. That look says, I ain't gonna conform to your rules, and I'll die before I do. And that's powerful. That is a location of a wolf.
Data from the radio collars has helped Smith's team to learn volumes about wolf behavior.
You see where the boulder is by itself?
Yeah. It also helps all those wolf watchers find them. Park Service employee Rick McIntyre is out every day listening for signals.
So that is from a black male wolf, 1107.
And then spreading the word.
Would you like to see a gray wolf?
I would love to.
Okay, there you go. So it's a little bit right of center.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, here comes the whole pack. Wow.
So see if you can count them all. There would be 2 grays and 6 blacks.
4, 5, 6 black ones and the white one that went by.
And there should be a second gray.
How about that?
We had spotted the Junction Butte pack along a ridgeline about 2 miles away. Like most packs, it's led by an alpha male and an alpha female, the only 2 wolves in a pack who mate with each other.
The gray alpha female is still leading to the right.
Oh, yeah.
And you see how the ones behind her are playing. She's determined to lead them to the west. They're running along the top.
Oh, right along the ridge.
Yeah.
That's magnificent.
We can see these wolves from the ground, and it's been a sensation. So we've learned a lot about pack dynamics and personalities and how social they are.
What do you mean? Describe that for me.
They want to be together. They're a pack animal. So the power of the wolf is the pack.
Nowhere is that power more evident than when a wolf pack is on the hunt for elk, its favorite prey. They work together because they have to.
Your average wolf weighs 100 pounds or so, but your average prey animal is much bigger. A bull elk's 750 pounds. A cow elk's 500. So how's a roughly 100 to 120 pound animal going to take that down?
They do it, Doug Smith says, both by coordinating their attack and by zeroing in on vulnerable prey.
They're going to take the weak. So they're making their living off of calf elk, old elk, injured elk.
Without wolves, there was an overpopulation of elk in Yellowstone. As wolves have cut the size of those herds, there's been an unexpected side effect. Plants that elk feed on have made a comeback, which has in turn produced benefits for other species.
All the little trees have come back since wolf recovery. This gully filled with shrubs has all come back since wolf recovery.
And the wolves are a factor in all of that.
Very simply put, wolves eat elk eat this. When the elk get reduced, they eat less, so beavers and songbirds can respond to the growth in that vegetation.
Doug Smith is quick to say that it's not as simple as he just made it sound, but that hasn't stopped some environmentalists from declaring wolves the saviors of Yellowstone's ecology.
There's some people who will try to convince you that wolves could probably solve Mideast peace and world hunger.
Randy Newberg is a Montana hunter who hosts a TV show and podcast for hunters. He remembers how emotional the debate over reintroduction was between wolf haters and wolf lovers.
Wolves are wolves. They aren't the big bad wolf, and they don't have a rainbow shooting out their ass like everyone would think they do.
There's something romantic about a wolf, right? Unless you've seen it chewing on a live cow.
Eric Costa's family has been raising cattle and sheep on this Montana ranch for 100 years. He says he was worried from the moment the first wolves were brought back to Yellowstone, which is about 100 miles to the south.
You know, they weren't going to stay in the park. They're a wild animal. They'd go where they want to go.
I'm sure you knew it was only a matter of time before they were going to get here.
Oh, yes. There was no doubt. And there was a set of tracks, very large.
Eric Costa knew that wolves would follow migrating elk out of Yellowstone and onto his ranch, and that they'd attack his livestock if given the chance. He started hiring range riders to watch over his cattle, and he bought guard dogs to help keep wolves away from his sheep.
Live sheep pay for things, live cattle pay for things, and dead ones don't.
His defensive measures have kept wolves away from his livestock, But neighboring ranchers have lost both cattle and sheep to wolves.
The thing that's never monitored when I talk to these people is the lost nights of sleep, the nervousness. I saw a wolf track on my place today, or I actually saw a wolf. Wolves are around. You can't measure or compensate for that.
Are wolf attacks on livestock a serious problem?
No, it's rare that it happens, but if it's happening to you, it's a serious problem.
It was that fear of wolf attacks that drove ranchers and settlers to eradicate them in the early 20th century. After the Endangered Species Act was passed in 1973, wolves were among the first to be listed, and a campaign began to restore them to Yellowstone Park. After that happened in the 90s, wolves quickly spread out of Yellowstone and into neighboring states. So many that there are now nearly 2,000 in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. After a long and bitter legal battle, those states finally won the authority to manage and sometimes kill wolves outside the national park.
Has this management of the wolves helped to lessen some of those passions, to calm some of those emotions?
I think so.
So to have wolves, you have to kill the wolves.
In some situations, yes.
The first situation is cut and dried. Any wolves that attack livestock are immediately killed themselves.
I think that's helped a lot, at least with the ranching community. People feel better if they're not powerless to deal with something.
And then wolves are hunted. There's a hunting season on wolves. All 3 states have them. So having wolves be hunted has probably increased people's willingness to share the landscape with them.
Looks like there's at least 2 of them.
Randy Newberg is living proof of that. He filmed a wolf hunt a few years ago for his TV show. It took him 11 days and 100 miles of trudging and tracking through the snow.
You went out looking for a wolf and saw how smart they are, how cunning they are, how athletic they are.
Yeah. If you want to increase your respect for wolves, go and chase them out on their landscape.
Hunters and ranchers and avid wolf watchers rarely see eye to eye, but they now agree on at least one thing.
We've got a gray.
Wolves are back in Yellowstone for good.
Oh my God, yes.
People love this. You know, we live in an artificial world. It's stores and cars and roads and buildings. Wolves are real. And people crave it. They love it. We almost have this thirst for something real now.
Warren Buffett, America's second richest man, is a household name. His 57-year-old son, Howard, not so much. And yet, he's the person Warren Buffett wants to succeed him as chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, the mega holding company that Buffett built, that owns everything from insurance to ice cream, with its stock trading at over $100,000 a share. Well, we wanted to find out, what are his son's qualifications for the job? For most of his adult life, Howard, the middle of Buffett's 3 children, has been a corn and soybean farmer in Nebraska and Illinois. When he's not up on his tractor, he spends his time using his farming skills and his father's money to help alleviate world hunger. Like his dad, Howard does not live the high life. Unlike his dad, he loves getting down in the dirt. This is the man who'll become the next chairman of the company-acquiring, investment-picking, money-making machine Berkshire Hathaway if Warren Buffett has his way. Howard is a farmer who would rather dig up the ground and drive big machines than sit in a boardroom. Were you stunned? Were you surprised?
I was surprised.
But no sign that he's about to leave.
He won't leave until he's buried in the ground. I hate to put it that way.
This is no gentleman farmer. Howard Buffett works his 1,500 acres in Pana, Illinois himself. We're going to go pick some corn?
Yeah, we're going to pick corn.
This year, he harvested 87,000 bushels of corn. With his 300 horsepower combine, that he runs hands-free off GPS.
You're like a kid, you know, who can ride his bike without his hands, right?
It's a big toy.
It's a big
But it's
toy.
expensive.
But with corn prices soaring, he can afford it. And incidentally, even a farmer named Buffett can get farm subsidies. Howard received $300,000 in federal payments over 13 years.
Here's something you said once. Here's a quote. "It seemed nothing I could do would be as successful as what he did," meaning Dad.
That comment would mean that in the world's eyes, you know, I would never be seen in the same success as he would, particularly in investing and in business. That's okay. I mean, you know, and my mom and dad always made it clear that that was okay.
There's no sense trying to compete with me because he's not going to play my game. He should have his own game. Grain shipments were down a lot last week.
Warren Buffett says he always told Howard to find something he loved as much as he loved making money.
Naturally, I have a lot of top secret stuff, but we'll try to keep that between us.
You always do.
Okay. So you're all business. I think of you as Mr. Indoors, working on numbers. I got it. So here you have this son.
I know.
He's a farmer. He's outdoors. He's down in the dirt. Are you sure he's your son?
Well, I think that's worth checking out. You'll have a big exclusive.
Well, he is really different. Explain that.
Well, he likes not only farming, he likes machinery too. I mean, I think he likes doing big things, you know, moving dirt, and he just is happiest when he's working hard. I'm happiest when I'm just kind of sitting around watching football.
Howard's different in another way. He's an active, hands-on philanthropist who visits up to 20 countries a year. The Howard G. Buffett Foundation focuses on world hunger, spending $50 million a year on projects like feeding programs in Ethiopia and agriculture education in Afghanistan. And he records it all through the lens of his own camera.
You all of a sudden begin to kind of look around and you notice there's a lot of people around that don't look too good. And, you know, they're hungry and they don't have great living quarters. They may not have access to water. They don't have good sanitation.
You were seeing farmers who couldn't feed themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I looked at that and I thought, you know, this is wrong. I understand agriculture. I should be able to do something about this.
In places like El Salvador, he's funding a training program for 5,000 poor farmers like Carla and Edwin Trujillo. They learn new planting and fertilizing techniques to improve the quality of their corn and red beans.
Carla, I'm Howard.
Hola, mucho gusto.
Yeah, buenos dias.
We tagged along as Howard inspected their 6-acre plot in the tiny village of San Juan El Espino.
And she's got an irrigation system.
No big combines here. And their irrigation? It consists of hoses connected to a barrel of water brought in by a horse. Howard wanted to check on the quality of Carla's corn.
Does she mind? Tell her I won't destroy her corn crop.
And that meant doing his favorite thing.
You're going to dig it up?
Yeah.
Come on.
He didn't just dig up her corn. He was like a doctor doing an invasive exam, pulling up the roots, ripping it open.
They always have tough husks in this part of the world.
And cracking it in half. His verdict?
You've done an excellent job with what you've got.
Since Howard's program started, Carla has doubled her income. In one way, at least, he is like his dad. He insists that the farmers learn accounting and managing credit, and that they buy their own seed.
They're looking for the standard kernels.
Howard Buffett is making a big difference, but on a small scale. He started out giving farmers the best of modern agricultural technology. But now he only teaches methods they can afford themselves after his projects end. Howard's passion for farming started early. When he was just 5, he turned the family backyard into a cornfield. His father was fast becoming a multimillionaire, but the family always lived modestly.
Did you know as a kid that you were rich?
No, not at all. And the greatest story is my sister, who, when you had to go around the room in grade school and answer, what does your father do? And, you know, we knew him as a security analyst, and we had no idea what that really meant. And so she basically said, well, he's a security guard. And that's what we thought for a long time. We just didn't know any differently, you know.
As his father's fame and fortune grew, Howard seemed to zig and zag on his own path, dropping out of 3 colleges, one after the next.
You must have been worried.
I wasn't.
You weren't?
No, I wasn't. He just was kind of finding what he wanted to do.
And so
it made no difference to me whether he found it in a college or not.
Really? Now,
Yeah.
that is an unusual parent.
It is an unusual parent, but it was the way that both his mother and I felt. None of our kids graduated from college. Now, if they pool all their credits, we can get a degree. I mean, I thought we ought to do that and pass it around.
Once Howard settled on farming, Warren bought land for him, but then made his son pay rent and tied it to his body weight.
So if you gain weight, your rent goes up, and if you lose weight, the rent goes down.
It's something like that, yeah. Financial incentives are supposed to work in some things. They don't work very well in weight, incidentally.
But why wouldn't you just give your son a farm?
Well, I just don't think that's the way to bring up a son. I mean, I don't think he's entitled to be given a farm just because his last name is Buffett. We didn't want them to see the world, through the lens of a super rich kid that got everything he wanted.
You just didn't want spoiled little rich kids.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett was famously unwilling to give his money away to charity.
I'm turning it over to you.
So it came as a big surprise 5 years ago when he donated the vast bulk of his fortune, some $31 billion, to the Gates Foundation.
It's a big challenge for us to make sure that this money gets used in the right way. But
Bill Gates is often described as Warren's third son. They vacation together, spend birthdays together. So the size of his gift to Gates left an impression that the Buffett children were given short shrift.
Warren Buffett doesn't believe in inherited wealth.
I don't believe in lots of inherited wealth. I haven't been spending my life trying to figure out how to transfer wealth and not have taxes and all of that so there can be a dynasty of all kinds of little Buffetts going around for hundreds of years, never having to do anything.
But don't cry for those little Buffetts. Howard, his brother Peter, and sister Susan have gotten multi-million-dollar gifts of money and Berkshire Hathaway stock from their parents. So while he's not on the Fortune 500, Howard is by any measure a wealthy man. On top of the outright gifts, each Buffett child is getting $1 billion to go toward their philanthropy. But all that pales next to the $31 billion that's going to the Gates Foundation.
So did you know as far back as you can remember that you were not going to inherit his money? The bulk of it?
Yeah.
You've sort of always known that as you were growing up?
Yeah. And from time to time, that was a little frustrating.
Because you wanted it, or what do you mean?
Well, I just mean, you feel like that there are a lot of things you could do if you had more money. Yeah. And I think that way even in the foundation.
But here's the irony. Bill Gates is spending a huge chunk of Warren Buffett's money on poor farmers in Africa, giving them hybrid seeds and synthetic fertilizers. It's exactly the kind of high-tech approach Howard tried and now feels is doomed to fail with farmers who make barely $1 a day.
They're pushing a system that really is similar to what we have outside this door.
But isn't that wonderful?
No. What I would argue is that at some point, those guys are going to go home and the money's going to not be there. It's exactly the same thing we did. And I don't feel it worked.
You know Bill Gates. Have you said to him, 80% of what you're throwing down there in Africa is not going to work?
Well, I've said it a little differently, I think, and that is that we need to quit thinking about trying to do it like we do it in America.
Howie's the farmer here, so he can speak with knowledge. I'm the city boy on the panel.
Bill Gates and Howard Buffett were both honored recently at the State Department for their work on combating world hunger, work underwritten in both cases by the largesse of Warren Buffett.
So your father gives all this money to Gates. You come out and tell us what he's doing is all wrong.
I'm not saying it's all wrong.
Well, a lot of it's wrong. A little bit of sibling rivalry there.
No,
maybe.
No, that's why we call him Brother Bill. But
exactly.
No, you know what? Bill Gates is the smartest guy in the world, next to my dad. Maybe I better say that if I'm on tape.
How old are you?
I'm 81, but I feel good.
Yeah, you look great.
Warren Buffett says if the Berkshire Hathaway board approves his son as chairman after he dies, Howard would not be paid and would not run the company day to day. Howard would be what Warren calls the guardian of the culture.
What were you worried about?
Well, you worry that somebody will be in charge of Berkshire that uses it as their own sandbox in some way that changes the way that decisions are made in reference to the shareholders, or then some, that the odds of that happening are very, very, very low. But having Howie there adds just one extra layer of protection.
I guess someone who's on the outside looking in would say, but what does he know about this business?
Oh, he knows plenty about the business.
Does he?
In the sense of the values of the business, sure. I mean, he doesn't know what insurance policy we're writing today, or how many carloads of the BNSF carried last week or something, but he knows the values of it.
Besides, Howard is the only one of Buffett's children who has been a corporate executive in agribusiness and the only one who has ever served on the Berkshire board.
Let me just make sure I understand you. You will not be picking investments.
Absolutely not. And I shouldn't. I mean,
Do you have concerns about taking over this big role?
Well, as long as I can keep farming, I'm okay.
And as long as he can keep funding projects in remote regions of the world, where, as we found, he is still working on becoming a household name. What did you know about Howard Buffett before? Had you ever heard of him?
No, hasta ahora.
Never heard of him?
Nada, nada.
Had you ever heard of his father? He has a very famous father, Warren Buffett. Had you ever heard of him?
Sí.
Oh, I'm impressed.
The United States has national parks devoted to canyons and deserts, glaciers and geysers, even underwater coral reefs. 63 national parks in all. But somehow we skipped the American prairie. The grasslands that once stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rockies played a vital role in the lives of Native Americans, white settlers, and an endless variety of wildlife. They inspired explorers and artists, but apparently not park planners. 2 decades ago, a nonprofit organization began trying to fix that, not with a new national park, but rather a huge privately operated nature reserve, a place where, as we first reported last fall, buffalo can roam once again. Through a vast stretch of open, and for the moment empty, grassland, Allison Fox is taking us up a muddy 2-track path in search of buffalo.
This road is incredible.
Fox is the CEO of American Prairie, which has, as just one of many audacious goals, the restoration of bison to a landscape they once ruled.
Oh, there.
Oh, there they are.
There, look at that. Wow, there they
Look
are.
at the babies.
Look at that.
Oh.
We found part of what American Prairie calls its conservation herd of about 800 buffalo. This group is mainly mothers with new calves, which are a distinctive shade of red.
Trying to do a count of the babies, but now they've kind of moved the babies into the middle of the group.
This land is like this as far as the eye can see.
As far as the eye can see.
That's not a bad description of the scale of American Prairie's ambition to create the largest nature reserve in the contiguous United States. The nonprofit has more than 50 employees, from fundraisers to buffalo wranglers. Allison Fox has worked there for 15 years and has been in charge for the last 4.
Overall, the goal is to have how many acres in this reserve?
Yeah, the overall goal is about 5,000 square miles, 3.2 million acres of intact grasslands. Comparable to the size of the state of Connecticut, and also comparable to Glacier and Yellowstone National Parks combined.
That's big.
It is big.
The big chunk of land is mostly north of the Missouri River in north-central Montana, one of the most remote parts of the country. It's a patchwork of privately owned cattle ranches and land owned by the government, including a huge existing national wildlife refuge named after the famous cowboy painter Charles M. Russell.
And that 1.1 million acres serves as the anchor of American Prairie's 3.2 million acre vision.
And so you've got these big chunks of federal land and you're buying land in between to try to piece it all together.
Exactly.
So just about every time a private ranch comes up for sale inside its desired footprint, American Prairie tries to buy it to add another piece to its puzzle and preserve more grassland.
How many ranches have you purchased?
We have purchased 34 ranches.
To buy all those ranches, American Prairie has raised nearly $200 million from more than 4,000 donors, including Wall Street financiers and technology moguls. It says it will take hundreds of millions more and decades more to complete the patchwork.
So this is a long game.
This is a long game, and it's a long game for land acquisition. It's a probably even longer game for the restoration of habitats and species. This area was America's Serengeti, truly America's Serengeti, with tens of thousands of bison, pronghorn, elk, deer, grizzly bears, wolves.
Is that the goal, or is that a goal to restore that?
Yes, to have the ecosystem function fully as it once did.
Charles Russell's paintings portray a romanticized version of what the prairie ecosystem used to look like. Teeming herds of buffalo, Native Americans hunting and living alongside the buffalo, at least until they both were displaced by white settlers and hundreds of thousands of cattle.
It's amazing to think of the people that lived here before us, people and other things. So over this direction, there's quite a cluster of teepee rings, so the Native Americans used to use this. Come on, Ross.
Connie French operates this cattle ranch with her husband Craig, and they are proud of their collaboration with conservation groups. In fact, they graze some of their cattle on a ranch that's been owned by the Nature Conservancy for more than 20 years.
Okay, girl.
But when American Prairie's early leaders came in talking about saving the land, it really rubbed her wrong.
So saving it, yes, but not just tromping over people.
Is that what it feels like?
It does feel like that sometimes, yes. So
they came in like, we know better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You have said that for their vision to become a reality, you and what you do, that you're gone.
I guess I can say yes, that's how it feels to us, to me.
Along the few roads slicing through the grasslands here, the signs are everywhere. Save the cowboy, stop American Prairie Reserve. They make it clear that a lot of Connie French's ranching neighbors share her concern.
What some ranchers have told us is that when you say you want to save the land, what they hear is that you want to save the land from them.
Yeah, no, we are well aware that that word save hit a nerve, and that was not at all our intention. Many of our ranching neighbors are committed to conservation, so if I could pull back that word save, I absolutely would.
American Prairie is now working hard to mend fences with skeptical neighbors. It has a program called Wild Sky, run by a wildlife biologist on its staff, Daniel Kinka.
Wild Sky ranchers are the best at what they do in terms of sustainable ranching.
Wild Sky will pay a rancher up to $15,000 a year for things like modifying fences to make them easier for wildlife to get over or through while still keeping cattle contained. It also pays ranchers to install cameras on their property.
The rancher gets paid for every animal that crosses the path of this camera?
That's correct. You get a coyote, that's 25 bucks. A black bear comes behind it, that's 300 bucks. 4 or 5 elk come behind it, that's 50 bucks. The biggest payouts are for wolves and grizzly bears, $500 per picture per camera per day.
Wolves and grizzly bears aren't on this part of the prairie at the moment. The idea of Wild Sky is that as they and other wildlife do return, payments will help cattle ranchers tolerate them.
Make sure you follow up the calves.
Lance Johnson, a fourth-generation Montanan who runs a cattle ranch with his wife and 2 daughters, is one of 15 Wild Sky ranchers. The cameras on his property have captured enough pictures this year to earn him $6,000, the annual maximum American Prairie will pay for photos of wildlife.
These ranches are so hard to make profitable that if you can figure out any way to supplement your income, then that's probably necessary right now.
Johnson also leases grass and grazes cattle on a ranch owned by American Prairie. So while some of his neighbors see it as a threat, He says that working with it helps ensure his family's future.
You see a place for you and your daughters and your cattle on this land for the foreseeable future.
We hope so. We hope for the rest of our lives that we're there. I want to do everything I can to give our girls that opportunity to have ranching in the future.
American Prairie says it intends to work alongside cattle ranchers for decades to come, and it does have some natural allies in the neighborhood.
The rancher and the wild space, can those two coexist?
Yeah, they can and they are. Happening right now.
Mark Azure was born and raised on the Fort Belknap Reservation, which is adjacent to where American Prairie is assembling its reserve. He's a former president of the reservation's tribal council, made up of members of two tribes, the Nakota and the Ani.
Is there any recollection of what this land was like before the white settlers came? Like the wildlife?
Yes, it was plentiful. Millions and millions of buffalo and antelope and deer and prairie dogs, black-footed ferrets, elk.
The tribes at Fort Belknap began building their bison herd nearly a half-century ago, and it's now more than 1,000 animals. Mark Azure took us out to see part of the herd, which roams across a huge pasture on the reservation.
So they're just scattered out doing what buffalo do, and that's eat the grass and right now enjoy the weather.
The tribes benefit economically from selling some buffalo meat. But you can see in the symbols used during native ceremonies that their value is much greater than money.
We know the history of the tribes and the buffalo, and they were one and the same. To come out here and get on the prairie and see a herd of buffalo, you can kind of leave that world for a little bit and reconnect with that lifestyle that my ancestors lived years ago. Might be just a little bit, but it's there.
Some ranchers fear that the tribes and American Prairie will let their buffalo roam free as they once did.
You use the term free, and I always argued that point because there's a fence somewhere. There has to be a fence somewhere. But as much room as we can give them to roam, then within that context, they'll be free. But not like it was 200 years ago. And we understand that.
Still be a place where you can come and see the buffalo roam.
Absolutely.
American Prairie encourages people to visit the land it owns. It operates campgrounds and has built huts and yurts that anyone can reserve. It allows hunting on many properties, which helps to build support among Montanans.
Across the West, you see more and more no trespassing signs. We've talked a lot about wildlife and wildlife habitat, but certainly providing access for people to appreciate, learn from, recreate on this land is a really important part of what we're doing as well.
The debate over American Prairie is often framed as an either-or. Either there are cattle or buffalo. If preservationists win, ranchers lose. What we found across these wide expanses of grass were much more subtle shades of green.
You know, when a new group comes in, new folks, new neighbors, it takes some time to learn if it's legit.
What I think I hear you saying is they have to earn your trust. And so far they have not.
No, that trust isn't given lightly.
With the size of the state of Montana and the herds of cattle, hundreds of thousands of animals in this state, I don't think buffalo will ever compete. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying, with American Prairie, take a section of land in the state and return it back as best we can to what it was 200 years ago.
It's a huge section of land.
Still not bigger than Montana. I think there's room here for both.